This week's episode of the Co-optional Podcast is proudly sponsored by Squarespace. Get 10% off your first order at squarespace.com/cooptional. Create your own professional-looking website with no prior knowledge required at squarespace.com/cooptional. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Co-optional Podcast here on the 18th. I'm sorry for the delay. We were supposed to go live yesterday, and, well, a lot of us were kind of busy, so it didn't really work out, and someone was busy today. Yeah, Dodger just isn't here. So, I mean, we've just failed completely as a show this week. You have my apologies.
Oh, well.
There is one little upside, though, a silver lining on this dark cloud of horrible misery, and that's, of course, the one and only Mr. ProJared, who is not busy with his D&D show today. Welcome to the show.
Right? Yeah.
We've been trying to get you back on for months.
I know.
Unfortunately, our live streams keep clashing, so it wasn't going to happen. Thankfully, since we moved it this week, hey, problem solved.
Glad to be here. It's been like 2 years since I've been on the show or something like that.
I think it has, actually, yeah. So the last time we actually were part of a stream had nothing to do with this show. It was a panel that we did at MomoCon last year that we were sort of roped into. I feel like everyone else on the panel was also feeling like they were roped into it because they were a little quiet. Let's just put it that way. It was mostly the Jared and TV show with backing band at that point.
It made for a good show.
It did. It was mostly just a shitting on things and then occasional, like, awkward laughter from the other people. It's like, why am I here with these people? What happened? It was good. Today's episode is sponsored by squarespace.com/cooptional. Get 10% off your first order at squarespace.com/cooptional. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
We totally will. Actually, if you ever want to go take a look at jessecox.com again, we've been updating it to like make it not look like crap. Before I made a website for the first time ever, looked like crap, but I still made one thanks to Squarespace. Now it's getting a little bit better. Thank you very much.
Even this idiot can make a website using Squarespace.
Fact and truth. Oh, thank you very much.
No doubt about it. Welcome to the Co-optional Podcast. We do occasionally talk about video games. We're going to be talking quite a bit about Nintendo Switch again today because, of course, two things happened. One, the press conference. Two, ProJared was at the press conference and also got his hands on with the damn machine and interviewed Mr. Reggie as well. So if there was more of an expert that we could have found for this show, I don't know where that person would be, and I probably wouldn't trust them anyway. So we'll be milking Jared for everything he's worth later in the show.
Yes, finally.
Indeed. And if we have time, Mr. Gabe Newell, of course, did his AMA on Reddit, which probably got more attention than Obama's AMA at this point. Like, certainly a mythical figure. He had some interesting answers, let me put it that way. So if we have time in the show, we'll be talking about that, because that brings up a whole host of really cool topics to discuss. So that's great. But we usually start the show and drag out about 2/3 of it by talking about the games we've been playing this week, which is exactly what we're going to do. Let's start with you, Mr. ProJared. We'll keep the Switch stuff till a little bit later, so let's talk about the stuff you've been playing that's not on the brand new fancy machine that none of us got to touch because we're not trusted with it.
Honestly, not a whole lot. I would usually try to spend my Januaries catching up on games I wasn't able to play or finish up in the last year. So I finally got to play some more Bravely Second End Layer on 3DS. Still immediately enjoyed it again right away. And aside from that, I've been playing the new 3.5 patch for Final Fantasy XIV, one of my favorite MMOs of recent memory.
Very cool. Let's talk a little bit about Bravely Second, actually.
I was about to say,
Bravely Default was a surprising hit in the West. I mean,
Default. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. You got what's basically like an old school JRPG Square style, and if I recall correctly, they were very timid about releasing it in the States.
They were, and it did awesome. Like, it was hugely successful.
I haven't got the
Here
chance
ended.
to play it. Can you tell me a little bit, one, about Bravely Default? Because one, what the hell is that title? I heard it was tied into some game mechanic or something like that.
Yeah, so it's actually tied into the game mechanics of the game, where it's a turn-based RPG where you choose all your characters' actions, and then you hit go, and then you'll see the actions play out, much like the original Final Fantasy games before active time battles became the thing.
Okay.
The only what you could do is you can stack up your character actions so they can do more than one in a single turn. That's called braving. So instead of like doing one fight, you can have them brave 4 times, and then you can have them fight twice, cast a spell, and then do a special move after that. However, but then they have like an action deficit, and every turn they can't do a thing until they get back up to neutral. And then default is just defending. So you just defend and block a bunch of damage, but that gives you a bonus action point. So you switch between the two to build up, being to throw out a bunch of moves in one go, or defending until you're ready to do that, etc. So that's why it's called Bravely Default, just because it ties into that. It's actually, they bring it up within the world too. It's not just like a game mechanic thing. It's actually within the lore of the game itself. Other than that, it plays very much like Final Fantasy 3 is the best one I can tie it to. Turn-based job system. You're getting job points. You're getting experience points. You can cross-class skills. Lots of customization. Super fun.
Awesome. It definitely sounds like a bit of a time sink. What about the second one? Have they gone with mostly the same sort of thing? Sorry, Jesse, go ahead.
I was going to say 2 things. One, if you've played Hearthstone and you've played a shaman, it's kind of like that, where you're like,
with the overload mechanic?
I drop some really cool abilities, but I'm blocking off things I can do later. So it's kind of like, it's about as close as I can get to describing it. But then secondly, and I'm really curious, because before we move on to the second game, Jared, what do you think about the second half of the first game? Because that is like a big contention point with everyone who's played it. Like, I love that game. Like, I think it might be one of my favorite games up to that point, and then it's just like an okay game.
Right, and I agree. And I got to the point where, so for those who don't know what happens within this, without spoiling too much within the context of the game, you basically more or less go into a time loop, and you're like revisiting the same areas and fighting the same bosses. They get like a little bit harder each time, and there's dialogue and changes. Even the characters are consciously aware, like, oh, we're doing this again. Why is this happening? But because of that, you literally play the same part of the game like 4 times in a row. It can go by quick, and there's just a crap ton of side bosses. I don't know about you, Jesse. I got to the point where I just skipped all the side bosses. I didn't care anymore. It's like, I don't even want to hear what they have to say. I'm just going to do the 4 main ones. Just will do the next time loop. That part sucks. However, the way that built up to the whole ending, I thought was great. Like, I was really surprised at how they built it in the ending, and they did like a lot of really cool meta things within that.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of. I think because lately I've played so many Western RPGs that I forget that. I mean, like, even I Am Setsuna, all these games that are JRPGs or that spirit, there's slogs in those games. They always get to the point where it's like, all right, you've done story, now go do the exact same crap or fight bosses or go walk around a big open world for a while. And it's way different than what I've come to expect lately. So when it happens, I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? But then I always forget most JRPGs have that moment where like all that bullshit you did do though, man, that's going to build to like a real satisfying ending. And I always forget that. And so, yeah, it's a game that I love, but at the same time, boy, like, I don't know that I could ever go back and play it again.
I agree. So with the second game, it's more or less a lot of the same. They did do some tweaks in there to really enhance the experience, where basically if you go into a random battle and you one-shot the enemy team in the first turn, you can go into an immediate second battle right after that and gain a bonus in the experience points and job points that you accumulate. And as long as you continue to like one-shot the enemy team in the first turn, you could just very quickly grind out. So that helped grinding a lot. That's probably the best feature they did. And aside from that, tweaks to job systems and new jobs and different abilities and the standard fare.
That's an interesting. What you just mentioned is quite interesting because it does sort of take apart one of the main problems that a lot of JRPGs seem to have, that aspect of grinding. The last JRPG I think I played seriously was probably Dragon Quest VIII on the PlayStation 2, and that's a grindy game, as you're probably well aware. I beat the whole thing, got all the optional stuff, spent 20 hours trying to fucking capture Metal Slime, fuck you Metal Slime, etc., etc. But the grinding, especially early on, was a bit of a pain in the arse, and it's nice to hear that they realize that and have come up with an idea that rewards min-max to the point where you're just fucking murdering shit over and over again really, really quickly. Because that's satisfying, right? I mean, I the only thing I play right now that's even close to like a JRPG is probably Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which obviously is a piece of shit, don't play it, but I still play it because I've invested too much in it. But the squad battle, in that sense, is very much a JRPG, and my team is very much built towards that idea of one-shot this fucking shit, because if you don't, these battles are probably going to get really dull really fast. Do them as quickly as you can. Like, focus on crit, focus on one-shotting things, take them out of the action really quickly. Yeah,
that's me. That's what I've been playing.
Cool. All right, well, it's good. We'll have plenty of time for the Gabe Newell discussion if need be. I've got a few things I can toss out, though, certainly, that we can talk about.
Sure.
So, which one to go with first? Since we're talking a little bit about JRPG, I went back and put some serious time to Halcyon 6 Starbase Commander. And you might be thinking, what the fuck does that have to do with JRPGs? Well, as it turns out, some people are probably aware and a lot of people might not be, the battle system in Halcyon 6 is very JRPG. It's a speed-based, I don't know if you'd call it active time battle, but it's based on speed meters, essentially, and each unit takes an action, and then their speed meter resets, and every time they take an action, that counts as a turn. There are cooldown-based abilities. There are abilities that require warm-up that can't be used in the first couple of turns, for instance, but it's all done in space. So it's either spaceship fight or ground fight against nasty alien beasties that turn you into red piles of goop and bones if you fuck it up. And that battle system is layered upon this overall strategic element whereby you're trying to control the galaxy, you're dispatching your fleets to various places to gather resources, to defend your colonies from alien attacks, complete missions, and all that kind of thing. And I'd dabbled with it throughout its early access, and I'd also looked at it with when it had released, but I hadn't spent a lot of time on it. And I did a 4 or 5 hour stream, and then I played another 6 or 7 hours after that. And it's got its moments, but it does run actually into the same problem that quite a few JRPGs do, in the sense that you often get to the point where battles should have an auto-resolve on them. Because if they don't, it's you're going to win, so you're just wasting your time. And it's especially true with the fact that a lot of the animations for attacks are just a little bit longer than they should be. They look good. It's a nice, it's really like a DOS-inspired aesthetic, I'd say. Good amount of pixel detail, nice bright, but with sort of modern particle effects. And that looks good, but it just takes a little bit too long to do. And when you're in a battle that's not challenging, that you don't really have to think about, which there are certain points in the game where that is very true, because the pacing's kind of all off. There are elements of it where really the game's not going to advance until you hit a key story point, which kind of hangs around for as long as you want it to. You end up with these battles that take quite a long time to do, and you've got to clear these guys out because otherwise you'll lose your colonies, but they're not doing anywhere near enough damage, and they're not dangerous enough to really fucking matter. So I end up in these 30 to maybe hour chunks of time where I'm sort of on autopilot doing these battles, and until I reach the next either tier of starship or the next big enemy type that's actually difficult comes along, I'm just sitting there thinking, oh god, will this ever end? Which is unfortunate, because I think the battle system's, it's pretty fun. I mean, there's nothing really all that unique about it. It's mostly just kind of JRPG battle system. They've got an exploit mechanic, so you can put a certain effect on something, and then if you hit it with something that exploits that effect, it removes the effect but does a ton of bonus damage. So there's that, and every sector you fight in usually provides some weird anomaly that makes ships either immune or vulnerable to something, so that's kind of neat. But outside of that, it does have some pacing problems. There's times when it's really hectic and you feel like you're fighting for your life, and the shit that's coming at you is like, oh god, this is so dangerous. I don't want to lose my guys because permadeath's a thing. I don't want to lose my ships because I'd have to rebuild them. And then there's times where it's like, my fleet is just going to dominate you, no problem at all. I'm just going to wipe you out, and I wish I had an auto-resolve button for this time.
Yeah. I picked up this game months ago just because I was looking for something to scratch that FTL itch.
Yes.
Because I want something just like FTL, if not even just more FTL. So this is something that actually caught my eye. So I only put a few hours into it, but even just in that brief time, I know exactly what you're talking about with like some of the battles. You're like, all right, we're just going through the motions, huh?
Yeah, it's not a Darkest Dungeon situation. I feel like of all the games over the past couple of years I've played that are sort of this style in terms of the fighting, Darkest Dungeon always felt like fights were going to be potentially lethal. And this game doesn't really have that. Like, even a really big crit, probably not going to kill you. There's a lot of healing abilities in the game. There's a lot of protection abilities in the game if you run with the right fleet configuration. So most of the battles don't necessarily feel dangerous. I was playing it on the 3rd difficulty, which is hard. There's 2 higher than that. Maybe I should have played it on that. But it's got its moments. Like, I really love the XCOM-like building of your station, gather resources, get a new building. I love training up my guys, making sure they get more levels. I love the aspect of legendary crew as your ship keeps fighting. Like, your little petty officers and ensigns gain experience and gain, like, little bonus abilities for your ship. So you can have a shitty tier 1 ship, but they've got such good crew that it fights like a fucking monster. I love that idea. That's really, really cool. That's a nice little bit of customization. Outside of that, though, it's good. Again, it has those pacing issues. Like I said, there's a lot of downtime, I feel. Particularly when you're spending a lot of time setting up your satellite drones to automate shipments from your colonies for resources instead of manually sending a ship to each fucking one of them. That's a bit tedious. Once they're up and running, you don't have to worry about that shit anymore. But up until that point, it's like, dispatch ship to this colony. It's arrived. Do you want to pick the stuff up? Yes. Dispatch it to the next colony. You can't automate it or anything until you've got those drones up, so... Oh,
it's full. Do you want to bring it back? It's like, yes, I want to bring it back. Just damn it.
Yeah. There's definitely some issues with the strategic layer, but they're adding quite a lot of stuff to it. There's been recent free DLC, which added a bunch of diplomatic events to the game, so there's a lot more of interacting with other races and doing missions for them and deciding whether or not you want to have them on your side or not, which is pretty cool. And they have upgraded some of the customization combat. I think it's definitely going to need a little bit more work to be a really good game. You know, auto battle I think needs to be a thing, and queuing multiple orders so that you can send your ship around multiple places to pick up resources probably a good idea too, because that micromanagement was real fucking annoying for a while. Otherwise, not a bad game at all. You know, just not a perfect.
I like what I played.
Yeah. So yeah, that's got JRPG elements, definitely. I said the fighting system is very Final Fantasy to me, whereas it's got a little bit of FTL in there. There's little random events, the permadeath, and some XCOM in there as well with the whole resource management aspect of it. And as much as I'd love to talk about XCOM 2, I can't do that until tomorrow at 7 a.m.
Soon. Real soon.
I'm pretty sure I can reveal that I have been playing Long War 2, that is. The embargo for the press version of Long War 2 is tomorrow at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. I will hopefully have a video of some sort up. There's one problem with Long War 2. It's long. So I haven't got that far in it, even after spending quite a lot of time. But I'll be able to show some stuff. I'll probably do a stream tomorrow as well of it. Like, you were telling me before this show, Jared, and I agree with you 100% on this, that XCOM is a hell of a streaming game.
Yeah. It's hard to do as like a solid like series or videos on.
Yeah, it is. I mean, unless you're like as good as someone like Beagle Rush, who can really put that together and not screw up, I think a stream is very enjoyable because of that element of death. Like, Darkest Dungeon's fun to watch too, because you can just have you guys like die, and it's, I guess it's either Schadenfreude or a sort of empathy that you get from your audience as well from watching that happen. Especially if you name them after subscribers, and people get emotionally invested in that shit.
I did that as a YouTube video series with the first XCOM. Not not the very first, but like the most recent reboot of it, where at the end, like anytime the world alerts came up, we had like the 3 decisions where to go. I made those annotations. I had people vote on where we go. So it was highly left up to the audience and like their strategic decisions. Like I'll handle battles and research and all that, but you pick where we go. And then I named the units after random commenters in the chat. That was super fun. Hard to do.
I'll tell you, it's going to be impossible in Lone War 2.
Yeah.
There is a lot of new stuff going on the strategic map, let me put it that way, that completely changes that aspect of the game. So that would not really be possible anymore. It's a serious... what can I say without filing NDA? Let me just...
It's long!
It is a serious overhaul, like expansion-level overhaul for the game. Like, it's crazy. They put so much into it. It feels great in many ways, but also hella intimidating. But yeah, I won't go any further than that, because I'll get in trouble. But hopefully video tomorrow, and so, if not video, definitely stream. That's absolutely going to happen.
Nice. I'm going to tune in.
Yeah. It's got a hell of a lot of stuff going on with it. Here's something else I did play. I don't know if you've touched this yet, Jesse, considering your proclivity for Star Wars media. Although maybe that's the reason you haven't played it. New Star Wars game on mobile, Star Wars Force Arena.
Yo, let me just tell you, I have touched that game for one reason only. Look, I don't know that I particularly like it, but I know they include Dr. Aphra, which is my favorite new bit of IP they've ever created. Imagine an evil female Indiana Jones who works with Darth Vader. That is, and she has 2 droids. They're basically R2-D2 and C-3PO, but evil, and they hate humans and want to kill everyone. It is the best bit of creativity they've ever come up with. I'm so glad she's in the game.
There's a lot of new lore stuff in there. Like, I mean, Thrawn's in it, which is neat. Yep. I know Thrawn is canon now, of course. I've been actually binging on Thrawn the last couple of weeks. I listened to all of the unabridged Thrawn trilogy on Audible, and now I'm working on the 2 follow-up books. Mm-hmm. Just a quick warning, by the way, even though we're not sponsored by Audible this week, we sometimes are. They're a sponsor of the show. Just a quick mention, if you're going to listen to those books, do make sure you get the unabridged versions. I almost accidentally picked up the abridged of the second follow-up book. The unabridged is 28 hours long. It's a 670-page book, but it's like I wouldn't have wanted the abridged version of that. Like there's so much great stuff going on in that. I wouldn't want to miss a thing. But anyway, yeah, back to Force Arena. You're watching gameplay from Angry Joe in the background, and the best, Jesse, let's hear your opinion on this first, and then I'll go into it as someone that's played a ton of Clash Royale, which this is
I don't think it's exactly like Clash Royale. It's like they took a MOBA and Clash Royale and combined the 2. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the best way to describe it. Everyone that I've seen play it has been using the Emperor. I tried to use some Rebel stuff and realized I understand why everyone picked the Emperor, because boy, is the Empire just better in that game.
I'm prioritizing my Rebel play at the moment and probably doing better with Rebels, although...
Really?
Yeah, I main on the Rebel side Lando, and I have his little sidekick. That is pretty... The uniques in that game are quite powerful.
Is it Lobot? Is Lobot his sidekick?
No, it's... what's his name? Begins with an N. He was the
Nub.
Yeah, Nub. Yes. Yeah, Nub is his. Yeah. So to explain what I'm talking about there, what you've got with Force Arena is something it's a bit similar to Clash Royale. So it's, at least in 1v1, a 2-lane push game whereby you spawn units that you draw from a deck, and they cost mana. It's all in real time. And the units will do what units do. You can't control them. But in this one, you also have a hero who you directly control at the same time. And he's kind of like a Dota or League hero in the sense that he's got a passive ability and an active ability, and he can fight as well. So it's a bit more involved, I guess, than something like Clash, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more League of Legends-esque. And it's, of course, in 3D, which is going to be a deal for some people. Before I get into my opinion of it, how much have you played of it, Jesse?
Honestly, I played enough to realize that I think it's like my love for the IP. I still am not like if anything, I'd rather just go play Clash Royale, honestly.
It's not strong enough to override the feeling that Clash Royale is a significantly better designed game.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of the feeling I had, and there's a few reasons for that. I like the direct control idea. The problem is it's direct control on a fucking touchscreen, and it's not very accurate, which means that you can really easily get your leader killed because it went in the wrong direction, or it pathed into a fucking wall, or you missed the attack. Like, this is particularly true of melee heroes. Less so with the guys that have ranged attacks, because in that case, you just kind of move into range of them and they'll probably target the hero. It's not a big deal. But if you're playing a melee character, then you can really easily, like, press to the side of the enemy hero instead of on the hero. So shit goes wrong there. And you can end up accidentally wandering into range of a blaster turret and die, which isn't fun either. I don't like the angle it's done at. Like, it's the 3D, it's sort of at a shallow, slanted angle, which means that you can't really see a lot on the screen at any given time. You're really reliant on a mini-map, whereas Clash Royale is cool because it's all on one screen. You can see absolutely everything. Yeah, that situational awareness issue isn't the problem. I realized that probably wouldn't work with a direct control hero because everything's really small in Clash Royale, so controlling that would be even worse. Right. But I don't feel like making it 3D made the game any better. I don't think that, like, helped the genre. If it was just on PC and you had mouse and keyboard as your controls, that would be a bit better because it would be more precise. But on mobile, it's like, fuck, this... It's worse because you're doing that and you're trying to play cards at the same time. So it's like, I need to control this, but I also need to... On an iPad Pro, it's a fucking nightmare. If your hero's up here, I'm trying to reach to play. I was like, my hands are big, but they're not that big. Fuck. So you've got to use, like, both hands, which means you probably need to play the damn thing on a table and not hold it, because then what the hell are you going to do there? So that's a bit of a problem. It doesn't run very well either, I have to say that. Like, it looks pretty good for a mobile game, I guess. Like, the effects are all there, the animations are pretty good, but it doesn't run very well. The business model, I think it's a bit better than Clash, but it's still pretty shitty. Like, they use the same idea that Clash Royale does in the sense that, I unlocked a unit. Now I've got to upgrade the motherfucking thing, and every upgrade you get costs twice as many cards as the last one, plus a bunch of currency, and that makes your stuff objectively better than the guy that has the same card that's lower level, which is a crap way to do that model, but they decided to do it anyway. They made it, in some ways, a little better, because they have a lot more rewards of card packs and specific units. Like, they have quest lines that you can complete, and they'll give you a specific thing at the end of it. So unlocking the heroes is quite easy. Like, I think you complete the first line of quest. It's like, here's another hero right now. So I'm working on the one to get Boba Fett at the moment, and that'll probably be done by the end of the day. It's like, okay, cool. So I'm not worried about, like, the random element of getting a legendary card. The problem is, I am worried about the element of upgrading those fucking heroes. Because, of course, it has hero upgrading as well. So your hero is a couple of levels higher than the dude you're fighting. You have a really big advantage over him. You hit harder, you hit faster, you have much more HP, so you're going to win pretty much every 1v1 fight. They have a trading system, which is kind of okay. You can trade in, like, 10 cards of one rarity you don't want for one of higher rarity, but it's still random. You can trade legendary for legendary, but again, still fucking random. So I could end up with God knows what. It's... I think the biggest problem I've got with it is these unique cards. They need a specific hero to run them. So that's frustrating as fuck if you draw a unique card from a pack and then you don't have the hero to run it. I'm sitting on an IG-88, who's one of my favorite characters. I run him in Galaxy of Heroes. Like, he's a really fun, assassin droid. Can't run him because I need the slaver dude, the reptile, Bask,
yeah.
Bask. What?
I need Bask to run IG-88. Yeah. And I don't have him. So he's sitting in my fucking inventory doing nothing. I think I have two that I can run. I have the Grand Inquisitor and the 8th brother, or the 7th brother. He's the unique. I don't watch
It's
Clone
Star Wars
Wars.
Rebel stuff, don't
Rebel
worry.
stuff, yeah. And I've got near Noob, whatever he is, for Lando, which influenced my decision to play Lando, even though I didn't really like his hero power. but I played him anyway, and because that guy's pretty good, I decided to.
What is Lando's hero power? Is it like
it's
sexual seduction?
No, it's gambling related. Basically, you hit it and it throws your hand away and draws you a new hand.
Why would his be gambling? He lost the Millennium Falcon gambling. He's if anything, he's the worst gambler in the galaxy.
Let's be honest. He doesn't learn from his mistakes.
If anything, he's a horrible gambler.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hero element's pretty cool. Like, it does distinguish it from Clash, but as I said, on mobile, it's a fucking pain in the arse to precisely control it.
Is it on PC? Can you get it? Can you play it online or anything?
Only if you use if you use an Android emulator like BlueStacks, you can play it. I use BlueStacks to play Plants vs. Zombies on stream every once in a while, and that works perfectly. But to run this, I wanted to link the accounts together, because of course I don't want to have two separate accounts that have to get separate things of cards. It won't link. It keeps. You have to link it via Facebook if you're going cross-platform. If you're not running like two iOS devices. So I created a Facebook account to fucking do that link, and it keeps saying your connection's unstable, and it won't let me link it, which makes no fucking sense. So yes, you can play it on PC, and I have a feeling that people that do and can get it running are actually going to have a pretty big advantage because of the precision of the mouse. But you've got to do it through BlueStacks in that emulator. Honestly, the game is actually something that would run fine on PC. It's widescreen. It's not the vertical thing like Clash is. So
Thank God.
That problem isn't there. You could totally port this to PC, and it might even do all right, because
I'd like it more.
Yeah, it's got that Dota-like hero control element, and that's something that's been very popular in mods for a while. Like Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2 have a shit ton of mods that did that, which is spawn units, but you have a hero to control too. It's not like this is original. Neither was Clash. Clash was a reinterpretation of a mod for Warcraft 3, I think, called Castle Attack. So that wasn't new either.
Yeah, some of the best tower defense games are straight up, you're spawning, you're building, and you have a hero.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. They're very popular, and a lot of people are making standalone versions of that for PC on Steam, as well as there's a bunch of those older mods that you can just play for free as well with the StarCraft 2 starter client. But I think it's going to need a little bit of improvement. It's fun enough. Like, I play a couple of games a day of it, but I have been known to rage quit that game quite a bit because I've fucked up a control or whatever. Your hero respawns quite quickly, but you can't play cards while your hero's dead. So you can lose real easy. And it's also quite easy to not notice that while you're fighting in one lane, the fucking asshole in the other lane's placed a sniper down that's just killing your turret from out of its range. It's like, oh, that's infuriating. Whereas on Clash, of course, you can see everything. I think Clash is like just a better balanced and better designed game overall. There's a lot of timing involved in Clash Royale and placement as well. And that's like the main meat of the game if you want to be really good at it. With this, it's less of that because of the hero element. So it's a bit scrappier, and it doesn't feel quite as well-balanced and well-paced as well. But yeah, I actually kind of do wish that they'd bring it to PC and maybe improve the business model somewhat, because it is kind of shitty. You do get a lot of free packs, I will say that. But if it goes anywhere like Clash did, to get past a certain point, you're definitely going to need a lot of copies of the same card. And the chances are you're getting that from buying shit, not from anything else.
Right.
Yeah, so I understand why they went into the space, because obviously Clash is still really popular. It's still top 10 grossing app on iOS. Makes a lot of money. Throw Star Wars onto that, put a bit of a twist on it, you have potential cash vampire. But yeah, it's not brilliant. It wouldn't replace Clash for me. Clash is just way more refined, I think.
Yeah, it's the IP is cool. I like that they're including all the new stuff and giving new characters their time to shine. It's just that the game's just, it's like it could do so much better. Like,
yeah.
You can see that there's a great game in there somewhere, but it's mobile. You're just like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, and as soon as you go to direct control for any mobile game, things got to get real tricky. I must admit, I haven't played anything like Vainglory, which is the popular mobile MOBA, which actually has esports tournaments, and it's a pretty game. It looks good. I can't imagine playing it, though. Like, the precision element, that would be infuriating, right?
Here's the crazy thing. I've played that game on computer, like at events and stuff. It's like a great MOBA that you can play. It's great.
You can play it natively on PC, or did they BlueStacks
No. It was just like it's easier this way. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay.
so the blue stacks do. All
and
right,
and
okay.
it was super fun. Like, it's a really solid MOBA. I cannot imagine playing it on a touchscreen. I just can't.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, I'd maybe do it with a stylus, like or something like that. Maybe play it on the Note 5. I mean, fuck, I play Clash Royale on the Note 5, and it's much easier to be accurate with it because of the stylus. No, it's weird. I find it fascinating when they try to adapt genres to mobile and see where they go with it, because sometimes they really do smart shit with that. Like, I remember when Infinity Blade first came out.
Yep.
And that was I mean, not only did that look gorgeous at the time, like for a mobile game, it's like, whoa, this is incredible looking. But the way that they adapted certain gameplay styles to the touchscreen was real smart. Sure, it was a lot dumber than other games in that kind of genre, and Infinity Blade's really more just a get into a fight, slash in the right direction at the right time. I mean, fuck, it's Fruit Ninja for, for people who want a fantasy game, right? Basically. Yeah. But it was intriguing to see them adapt certain ideas to mobile. And sometimes they really nail it. And then other times, it's like, I don't want to play this. The controls are horrible. A great recent example, they released Mega Man 1-6 on iOS. It was a disaster. It came out a couple of weeks ago. Not only does it control like absolute dog shit, it has frame rate issues and crashes for an NES game.
Has there been a good Mega Man port on mobile? Because
I don't think
Mega Man
so.
X42, is anyone remember that being like the most gigantic piece of shit I've ever seen?
Yeah, that was shit too, right?
The graphics and the buttons layouts was like really freaking bad. It was like auto running and terrible.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you're gonna do a Mega Man mobile game, you probably have to make it an auto runner, wouldn't you? In order to just make it control properly. And that would be shit. But
yeah, it's not fun.
No. There's a couple of like runners that I quite like. I thought the what they did with Rayman I thought was pretty good. Rayman Jungle Run and stuff like that. They actually made that game as an auto run. It was a very fun auto runner. I got to give them that. It looked great. It sounded great. It controlled really tightly for what it was. But they designed the gameplay and the levels around that. You try and do that with something like Mega Man, I think you'd be in for a disastrous consequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I'll see. I'll play it a little bit. I don't spend a lot of time on it. I think that if they did port Force Arena to PC, I'd probably play quite a bit more of it. Because it is, the game's a couple of minutes long. It's fun enough. And as I'm getting up the levels, I'm unlocking more interesting cards with more interesting effects. So it's not as dull. And there's more strategy involved in it. But, yeah, as I said, that direct hero control method in the perspective is a real killer for me on mobile. It just doesn't... Nah. You are right, though. There's an interesting selection of heroes, like, to the point where I don't know who half of these motherfuckers are. Pretty sure half of them are from Rogue One and half of them are from Rebels, of which I've not seen either yet.
Get in that new canon, dude. There's so much cool stuff now.
I'm
I've
dying.
heard Rebels has gotten quite good.
Rebels, the first season is all over the place. And then on season 2, they're like, hey, what if we actually start making sense? And then season 3 is like the coolest shit that ever existed. So I will simply say there's a series of episodes that was on recently that's really on point with like connecting all the movies. And I was like, they do care. Disney.
I've only seen like the recent trailers and stuff on it where like suddenly they're much older or something. And it's like, Obi-Wan's back.
Spoilers for Clone Wars and Rebels, but Darth Maul lives.
Yes.
Yeah,
I feel about that.
I did know about that. I haven't watched Clone Wars yet. I actually do intend to. There's a viewing guide that someone made. This is how you see the good stuff and skip the pointless filler shit.
There's a lot of pointless
Perfect.
There's a lot of pointless shit in Clone Wars. But
Right.
if you can like watch those main story arcs to get to Rebels, the end of Clone Wars has a really, really cool scene with Darth Maul and the Emperor, and then fast forward to Rebels, Maul still has a role, and
yeah.
All I can say is both Maul and Obi-Wan are alive, so they're gonna come to a head at some point, right?
Gotta happen.
Because they're mortal enemies, and
course.
it really is like all those videos that were like, what if they just redid the entire prequels and made it about Obi-Wan instead of whiny boy Anakin? And it's like that's what it's becoming right now. Like all the shows are becoming that storyline. I'm like, oh, they're making things right again. So
yeah, I know there's been a lot of hostility to the idea that they threw out all of the expanded universe, made it Legends, and then went with this new thing. Let me put it this way. You lot don't know what pain is. As a Star Trek fan, you don't fucking know. The thing with Star Trek, at least, is that they have established the multiple universes. So everything is true, which I choose to believe that is what has happened with Star Wars, that it's just parallel universes that went different ways. It's going to be extremely confusing, I think, after I finish these 5 Thrawn books, to then listen to the new Thrawn book, which is coming out in April, which is written by the same guy that wrote the other 5 Thrawn books, but it's new canon now. So it's going to change a lot of shit, I think. Here's all I will say is they're really smart about how they're introducing the legend stuff back into the new canon, in that they straight up are like, the origins of all those characters, like Thrawn, for example, is the exact same. Yeah. Nothing's like his schemes, the character is the exact same. The only difference is like his post Battle of Endor storyline doesn't exist yet, so no, who knows, that might even happen. We don't know, probably not though. Like one of those things that like he exists in the canon already and they're giving him that backstory, so it's on point. It's the exact same character, just doing new things, which is like great. That's all I wanted. Bring back Mara Jade. Yeah, absolutely, no doubt about that, dude. Hell, I'm telling you, go back, watch that fucking Star Wars Episode 7. Dude, standing at a grave. I'm holding out hope that's gonna be. He's gonna be like that. Dude, I thought it was a grave too. The first time I saw it, I thought he was at a grave too. I think he's standing at a grave. And thank you, Jesse. You're the only other person I've met that's actually like, I think that's a grave. What kind of man just stands at the edge of a cliff? There's a marker there. Careful with the spoilers. I know some people haven't seen it yet, so. We might get killed if we spoil that. All I'm saying is, if they could just give me that bone, if they were just like, that was my wife Mara, I'd be like, I'm okay, I'm fine now, I'm totally fine. They may throw a bone, they may not. We'll see. I mean, it seems like they're kind of handling it well. What I'm interested to see is if they actually do a proper video game that has some effect on the storylines. Oh my god! Because right now it's just. A lot of it's just been, we're going to emulate the films in some way. I mean, Battlefront pulled in stuff from Rogue One and all that kind of thing. It did fuck around a little bit, because it's like, oh, there's a entire DLC based on the Death Star, which is totally non-canon, like the idea about how you deal with that. I mean, fuck you. You actually go and invade the Death Star after killing a Star Destroyer, getting a shuttle in, stealing a robot from the Death Star and then fucking leaving and then doing a trench run, which obviously is non-canon and weird, but it's neat nonetheless. Yeah. But I would like to see the games properly tie in story-wise. You know, major Star Wars releases are few and far between at the moment, and all the mobile stuff is... Everything else does. All the comic books, all the books, Rebels, like all the shows, everything, Disney has like made it so everything connects. They've got a full Marvel verse on it, haven't they? Yeah, when Rogue One came out, they released 2 episodes of Rebels that were Saw Gerrera based. So like everything is like, we're going to keep the story going and have everything connect, and everything's going to make sense, which is like, all right, cool. So you get, if you're huge into the lore, you like, oh, I know what that means. But if you're not, like, well, that was still entertaining. Yeah, so that's a good way to go. I think whatever game they're going to come up with, isn't it Visceral, the guys who made Dead Space? Aren't they? Visceral's supposed to still be working on something. We don't know exactly what, but they were. So weren't they being headed up by Roberta Williams on that one? Like, yep. Wasn't it Visceral who's doing Star Wars 1313, or was that a different? That was a different company. Yeah, 1313 is, as far as we know, cancelled. I think. Yeah, super canceled. Yeah, I actually still have the USB card that they gave out when they first presented Star Wars 1313 at that E3. And I've been holding on to it just as like a little piece of gaming history. Memorabilia, yeah. It's like, this is not even just vaporware, it's gone. Yeah. It's actually Jade Raymond who was heading that. Is it both of them involved in it? I'm almost certain Roberta Williams in somewhere. Look, I want that game to be just like, we need properties that have the same vibe as the first Star Killer game, whatever the hell that was called. Force Unleashed.
Yeah, and Shadows of the Empire, like all those games, even TIE Fighter and X-Wing, those games still told you good story and like we need those games where you're still in that world, but you're not like I'm Luke Skywalker. Like there's so much more to tell in that universe.
Yeah. Absolutely,
I can't wait.
Yeah. I'm all about expanding beyond the Skywalker family for sure.
Yeah. I want to pitch something to you, and I think it'd be amazing. A series based on Boba Fett, except Boba Fett is not the little boy from the Clone Wars like story. Boba Fett is just the mask, It's like Red Hood or all those other. So like it's people constantly fighting over becoming Boba Fett because the legend's bigger than him. That'd be great. That'd be a great plot line for anything. Take it, video game people, make me something beautiful. I want that so badly. That'd be great.
Apologies, incidentally, it's Amy Hennig who's heading up writing for Visceral, not Little Whims.
The old Uncharted writer.
We went across the map to get there, but we finally got her.
We got it. Well, apologies for that. Yeah. I just think it's a bit sad at the moment that the Star Wars game flag is being carried by an FPS that nobody plays. Well, third-person shooter that nobody plays on PC. That's pretty much reviled, even though it was sold pretty well. A few mobile games that have nothing to do with the canon whatsoever. And the Old Republic, which obviously they can do pretty much anything with because it's so far back that they don't give a fuck.
Which I need to go back. The new expansion to Old Republic looks dope. It's almost entirely single player. Like I need to go back and play that again because it looks great.
I may very well do that. Some people are saying that Star Wars 1313 has restarted production. I don't see any evidence of that anywhere.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's still considered cancelled by everybody right now. So there was a rumor, I think, over a year ago that it might not be dead, but there's nothing recent that said that it's coming back. So I don't think so. I don't know. It's being carried more by mods at this point. The Sins of the Solar Empire mod that we played, Thrawns Revenge.
Oh my god! All right, time out. Since we played that together,
you played
I have
more,
put in like maybe another 20 hours. I love that mod. I am in it now.
Yeah, I put some more time into it as well. The guys that made Thrawns Revenge for Empire at War initially, which was a great mod, probably the best mod for that game. That game has a few issues on Windows 10, like it hard crashes the entire system when you try and quit it. That's not good. So, yeah, bit of a problem. But they then went and did Thrawns Revenge 2, which takes a lot of that stuff over to Sins of Solar Empire, which is a pretty logical place to put it. And it is really good. It's got a much bigger focus on capital ships than Sins does. It changes the pacing of the game. I love the idea that the New Republic is very propaganda-based, whereas you can go down the xenophobia route for the Empire. There's basically several Empire factions that are from Expanded Universe. The Imperial Remnant, which is probably the most familiar to most people. The Empire of the Hand, which plays completely differently to the Empire, by the way. Like they've got this crazy advanced hyperspace ability, so they can be pretty much anywhere. They're mostly based on fast frigates instead of big Star Destroyers. And then the Pentastar alignment, which is the one that I knew the least about. I've been doing some research into that. I bought there's an iBook version of something like the Guide to Warfare, Star Wars Guide to Warfare, which is a really beautiful like ebook where you can move around it really easily with menus. You can zoom in on stuff. You can click to get additional specs. It talks a lot about the different eras of the Expanded Universe and also the ships that were used in them. And it explains factions like the Pentastar alignment and what that actually was.
That comes from a period of old Star Wars books where I was like, oh boy, Chewie got blown up by a moon. Like, I don't give a like, I'm done with this. So, yeah.
But the mod itself it's lovely. Very detailed.
It's also super fun in that it gives factions, like the other day I played as the Republic, and for some reason I ran them against all Republic factions. Okay. So it was me versus Leia versus Wedge versus, I was like, cool. Get fucked, Wedge. It's super fun. It's super fun. Like it breathed new life into that game for me. Like Sins is fun, But this adds like a whole when you can build just a super Star Destroyer and go around and be like, what up, haters?
I was rolling with the Sovereign, man. It was I originally built an Executor because you get the choice, which is awesome, by the way. Thank you for that. I built the Executor and I thought that can defeat this fleet on its own. It didn't. So that was that was a wasted investment.
Haven't you seen the movie? They just fly an A-wing into your bridge and you're done.
This is non-canon. How is that supposed to work? But then I said, all right, fuck it, I'll build the Sovereign instead then. It's like, that's way more fun, because you can crack the mantle of a planet with it. It's got the super laser that you could just blow up a big defense station with. That's shit ton of fun to roll
That was my problem, though, because I was so concerned about taking over planets that when I started destroying planets, I was like, why can't I take this one over?
Because it's a pile of dust now, damn it.
Yeah. I was like,
Yeah, it's got a lot going with it. It's a great mod. Sins has several really good mods. There's a Star Trek mod called Armada 3, which is really good. What I will say about Armada 3 is it plays far more like Sins than this does. Thrawns Revenge, they've made some real pacing changes to it, whereas with the other one, it's more of a case of you build your first capital ship, it's got a colony ability, and then you have to wait ages to get your second capital ship, and you start with your frigates, and then your little strike cruiser thingies. In Thrawns Revenge, like, you want 3 Star Destroyers right off the bat, you can. You can totally get them. And it's fun to just roll around with 3 Star Destroyers blowing up everything. That's great. It's well worth the download. It runs really well too, which a lot of
the process to download involves getting like another program so then you can expand a directory or some nonsense. But in the end, it's totally worth it. It is really, really fun.
Yes, absolutely. Especially when you can get a large group together to play it with. The AI is good, don't get me wrong, but if you can play it with other people, that's, Sins is really, really awesome in that regard. Yeah. Put a bunch of time to that. There is one game I want to mention, by the way, just to sort of touch right back on our Force Arena and Clash Royale thing for a second. A few people pointed me in the direction of Beta Dwarf's new game, which is called Minion Master Forced to Duel. They're the guys that made Forced and Forced Slightly Better Edition. Yes, that is the title of it. And Forced Showdown. And they've now made a game called Minion Masters, which is currently in beta. And it's basically a PC version of Clash Royale without any of the bullshit in it.
Huh.
So it's done horizontally rather than vertically, because we have widescreens. And once you unlock a unit, that's it. There's no upgrades for that unit. You just have it, which is great. So, I mean, I haven't spent any money on it yet. I've got so many free units and stuff to build decks. And it's got a cool idea where you have a hero that oversees the battle, and is like a stationary tower. And he has a bunch of abilities. So you can pick a different hero to go with your deck, and your hero levels up during the fight. As you capture the bridges in the middle of the map, you gain a bonus XP. And once you hit certain points, your hero gets an ability. So it kind of puts a timer on the game in the sense of if you hit your ultimate ability, it's probably game over for them. But it's designed around PC play. It's pretty fun, actually. Same principle as Clash Royale, but way better design, way better business model. Might be worth a look. I've enjoyed it so far, let me put it that way.
Yeah, it says in the future it's going to be free to play, but right now it has a price model because they want really dedicated players to play it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, I'll give it a shot because they've already won me over with this ridiculously cute fish man or whatever he is on the logo.
The art design's nice.
I'm in. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. It's added to the list.
Yeah. The only issue I've really got with it is, like, I think that a game like that is a great way to find out whether or not you really just love that gameplay model or you just wanted something to play on the go.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
Yeah.
But the reviews seem like they're nailing it.
It's good. Yeah, what I played of it so far, as someone that's put shit tons of time and money into Clash Royale, I think it's a pretty damn solid interpretation of it, and it's got quite a lot going for it. A couple of unique aspects to it. Again, kind of borrowed from mods. The whole control the bridge gets a bonus thing is from quite a lot of StarCraft 2 mods. These kind of push-pull tug-of-war maps. But yeah, it's just so much more fair than Clash's because there are no fucking unit upgrades. Thank God for that. And you get free stuff pretty much all the time in that game. So, yeah, it's currently in beta. There's actually, according to Steam Spy, it has over 250,000 people that already have the game.
Wow.
Which is weird, because that's been slipping way under the radar for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, I had no clue. This looks cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I like it. Not too shabby at all. Like, is there anything else? Because I think we're going to be through games in like 1 hour. Jesse, if you please tell me you've played a few things this week.
I mean, look, I've played way too much Final Fantasy Brave Exvius for a person.
I've been playing it too.
It's got to be better than all the Bravest,
with
right?
Ariana Grande for me, where I was like, I'm going to download it and play as Ariana Grande, has now become a massive fascination with this game. It's not bad.
It's not bad at all.
Really
it's not
fun.
bad. It's pure Final Fantasy fan service, and the story is absolutely worthless, and you'll realize very quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All the cutscenes, because it doesn't matter.
But
it's
super fun to play.
I feel like you're all on the same wavelength on this one.
Man, you basically, it has all the tropes of a mobile buy your way to victory game.
Right.
You are getting, oh my God, my phone's on the charger because I played it so much this morning. You play not only characters that you unlock through crystals, and by unlocking these crystals, you either get rare characters or you get like silver characters or bronze characters, whatever.
They have like a bunch of generic characters they made just for the game, but otherwise you're getting a bunch of main heroes from the entire Final Fantasy franchise, right, and a bunch of like side characters from each of the games that are also just playable, which is really cool.
Yeah, and even like
Final Fantasy 6 is awesome. A lot of the villains are in there.
Mm-hmm.
Shockingly, and this is probably the most shocking thing to me, I haven't seen anything in here from Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 8,
right?
With the bigger ones that usually show up in these kinds of games.
Well, I mean, right now they have Final Fantasy Type O as the main thing, and you're like,
what?
Okay, sure, I'll get Jack. But from there you're getting like, so a great example is I unlocked a yellow. It's a 4-star yellow. I'm like, fuck yeah, until you realize that it goes up to 6. And
yeah.
then and you have all that BS. And so of course, if you are a 4-star yellow going up to a 6-star gold or whatever, you are gonna get destroyed.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do that because that's just the arena mode. What you can do otherwise is there's a story mode. You can then go back and explore the map of the story mode areas you've been to and find treasures. You can go into towns and find treasures and find secrets. You can accept quests that are like, go back in this other area and find a thing, or beat this boss, or kill 10 wolves in a cave or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you are crafting. You can craft spells, you can craft items, you can craft all sorts of crap. And then
you can borrow units from your friends to temporarily join your party to help out for like particularly tough bosses, or the cover spell element that you don't have.
Mm-hmm. And then there are summons, and it's really cool because the summons actually give you a summon cutscene, and you can skip it if you want, but you're like, wait a minute, this is like a really good cutscene on my phone. You're like, whoa, all right.
Definitely does sound a very fan servicey. What was the one that we played quite a lot of? It was either last year or the year before. It was also very fan servicey. The one where it's like you have to go into the paintings and save the
Final Fantasy Record Keeper.
Yeah. I played of that. I played of it for a decent amount of time. I enjoyed a lot of. It almost seems like this Final Fantasy overload on mobile devices right now. It seems like there's like a lot of crossover to a lot of this stuff.
Well, it's that I think it's the spritey aspect of where Final Fantasy comes from. It just translates so well to something like this. And this game, for some reason, I thought I would hate it. I thought I was going to joke around and just be like, I'm going to get Ariana Grande to suplex the train. Here's the thing. I'm still going to get Ariana Grande to suplex the train. But by God, I like enjoy what I'm playing. And it's you can definitely see here's where it wants me to buy this, and this.
Yeah.
But at its core, you really don't have to. You can just keep playing and having fun. And it takes a good hour or so. Every morning I play it for like an hour and then I move on with my life. But like I'm playing it for an hour, which is crazy to me.
For a mobile game, that's quite a lot.
There's a recent patch that they did into the game where you have like sub-quests for every single battle or mission you do, and that gets you some in-game currency. So it's very easy to build up the in-game currency to spend it on the things that build up right away. It's like, oh, you hit your maximum equipment limit, you either sell some stuff or increase it, or you hit your character limit. So ever since that patch, the game's gotten way better because I haven't spent any money on it. I still have like 7,200 of the in-game currency, which is like the equivalent of $72.
Yeah.
I haven't spent any money, and it'll cost like 100 to increase your unit capacity or your energy or whatever. So it has been doing way better about making it so you can't spend a lot of money on it, but there's a really good, easy way to go back and just get a little bit of cash. Plus, it's retroactive too, so you can go back to like the original early game missions and just destroy them and instantly get all that cash.
And those little objectives in each mission are things like use an item or kill a boss by using like fire magic or something like that, where they're all very specific.
Don't die.
Yeah. Oh, some of them are just like don't die or don't use a phoenix down.
Yeah.
And eventually you have to get like really strategic with it because you're like, okay, well, if I do this, this, and this, I'm going to murder this guy because I'm way over leveled. So how do I plan this out in order to, and then in the end you get whatever those little crystal things are called. And I'm thrilled that I don't hate it. I really enjoy this game.
Considering the last one that had the word brave in it, as in all the bravest, was one of the worst mobile games ever. It's a bit of an improvement.
Well, so this game is called Brave Exvius because it's actually more or less a Final Fantasy paint job on top of a previous developer's game called Brave Frontier.
Okay.
It's very similar, but it's all custom characters and like unique whatever. And then Square hired them to be like, can you just do that for Final Fantasy? So much so they actually had a Brave Frontier event in Brave Exvius where you get some Brave Frontier characters in Brave Exvius.
Yeah, it's I think the fun of collecting the different characters and making a team of just like, this is my perfect fantasy team. Exactly. And then going out and slaughtering people is too much fun. It's
like, I'm not trying to have like the best team ever because like the most overpowered character right now is Lunith from Final Fantasy 3.
Yeah.
So right now my party is I've got Locke from Final Fantasy 6, Celeste from Final Fantasy 6, Cecil and Rydia from Final Fantasy 4, and Ferris from Final Fantasy 5. Before that, I was using Edgar and Sabin from Final Fantasy 6. Lightning is a surprisingly good character, even though I hate her as a person.
As an actual person, not even just a
as an
video
actual
character.
Living person.
Oh, they had a Final Fantasy Tactics event too, where you can get Ramza, Delita, Mustadio, TG Sid. Oh, that was so cool because you actually went back. They played like the Tactics music and basically redid sprites of Tactics enemies in Brave Exvius. That's one of the coolest things. Reimagining all of these like Final Fantasy characters from new and old in like there's unique sprite design style, and it looks freaking great.
I just want to point out that my team is all villains. I have a 5-villain team, and apparently 3 of them are like some of the strongest characters in the game. And I'm like, what up, haters? Villains, go!
So you're using Cloud of Darkness?
Yo.
Who else?
Uh-oh. Go on.
Shoot. I haven't been using a whole lot of villains. I know Garland's in it, but he's like 4-star tops right now, isn't he?
My team right now is Cloud of Darkness, Kuja, what the hell is that guy's name? The big knight space guy. I can't remember his damn name to save my life. Yeah. Like I just have this team of villains, and it's really fun because it's so silly to be like, heroes, we need your help. And I'm like, go villains, cleanse this area.
Oh, X-Death, that's probably what it was.
Yeah, X-Death. That's
one of the first things I did since I started playing the game is like as soon as you got the option to make a new party, I took out the main characters that they had for the plot. I'm like, nope, don't care about you.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently I lucked out. I have like a 5-star Santa Fina or something like that, and she's apparently very good. I'm like, I don't care. But apparently this new Ariana Grande thing is like gonna be huge in the game, and you get her for free, and she's like a 6-star if you just do the missions.
It just started today. Circling back to the whole point of why we're talking about this, they're doing a crossover promotion where Ariana Grande is now a unit in the game. I don't know shit about her, but I know she's like in some kind of bunny outfit. Is that from like a music video of hers?
I guess so. Yeah. Here's what I know. Apparently, Japan loves that girl, and so because it's a big game in Japan, they are putting her in the game. I think it's as simple as that. I'd love to believe that she's just a giant Final Fantasy fan, but I don't know if that's true. But
that can't be it.
I want that to be my headcanon, that she just loves Final Fantasy. But yeah, ever since I saw that, I thought it was hilarious, and I just want to have her in the game. And you can craft skills. I want to give her all of Saban's skills and make her into Saban and have her just suplex people. Like, that's my dream, is her just to be like, oh, I can't wait. But it is, yeah, I don't know why. I don't care why. I think it's super silly and super fun that exists. And all I'll say is shout out to the real Ariana Grande, because yesterday I made a very bad tweet, very bad joke. She totally retweeted it, and now my Twitter feed is all like 16-year-old girls being like, "That's hilarious," and I'm like, "Damn right it is."
At least really it wasn't them being horribly upset and threatening to kill you because they didn't take it the right way, because that has been known to happen. Don't ever tweet about One Direction. There's a piece of advice that I'd give to anyone with a social media account. Unless you want a crowd of murderous 13-year-old girls threatening to stab you to death, I would suggest not ever engaging in that. If you see a One Direction related hashtag, walk the other way as fast as humanly possible. There's my advice.
I want to know what you were doing tweeting about One Direction. What were you doing, TV?
It was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Let me put it that way. I'm pretty sure I got caught up in one.
I like to imagine you were talking about a one-way road and you were just very mad.
I think it was
hashtag One Direction. They're like,
something like that.
You.
It wasn't even just that hashtag, because I think it got rolling off just the words One Direction, and if you used it in any other context, you'd appear in the hashtag feed, and then you get swamped by people. It's like, why are you talking about us? Like, what the fuck? You're terrifying. Go away. All right, let's take a break, and we're, of course, going to shill for you for a couple of minutes in regards to Squarespace. And when we come back, we could talk a little bit about Nintendo Switch, of course, because Mr. Jared has actually played some stuff. We've got some updated news on that. We'll be talking later on the show, most likely, about Gabe Newell's AMA, and a couple of other little things as well. Our squarespace.com/cooptional link will give you 10% off your first order. I'm about to tell you why, or terrify you into doing so. Fear is a powerful motivator, especially in sales. We'll be right back after the break, folks. You are watching the Co-Optional Podcast. Don't go anywhere. It is 2017, which means by international law you must decide on your New Year's resolutions. Personally, I've decided on 2560 by 1440 at 144 Hz, although I doubt the human eye could handle that, so perhaps there are a few more down-to-earth choices for the common folk. Number 1, lose some weight. That does sound like an awful lot of work, though, so maybe that's a little unrealistic. Number 2, pre-order the latest handheld console. Nope, can't be done. They're only manufacturing 7 of them and 2 plastic toys. On the plus side, that's more than they sold with the last one. 3, fix your terrible website. Aha! Now here's something that any idiot could do. But TotalBiscuit, you say, I don't have a website. Oh, don't think you're getting out of this that easily. 0 is still a number, so your website, whether it exists or not, is still terrible. This logic is infallible because it's based on mathematics, and mathematics can't be wrong. In similar fashion, you can't go wrong with squarespace.com/cooptional. Well, it is possible. But building a website is so simple with Squarespace that the sheer depths of incompetence you'd have to reach to mess it up would crush a submarine. I'm talking the depths where horrific sea beasts of nightmare lurk. Like this one. Good God, that's horrific. But with squarespace.com/cooptional, you'll never have to meet your demise at the hands of this unholy abomination, mostly because there's nothing nautical about a service that lets you build a website for whatever you'd like with absolutely no experience required and a series of powerful, beautiful templates designed by professionals. What you see is what you get. Get started in just minutes and get 10% off your first order at squarespace.com/cooptional. While you're at it, you might as well grab a Squarespace domain name. There's nothing hidden beneath the surface with a Squarespace domain. Unlike the teeming murderous hellbeasts of the deep sea, come to devour you as a rare and tasty morsel. This is the fate that awaits you should you sink to the depths. Make sure you stay afloat with a website from Squarespace. I'm contractually obligated to use deep sea metaphors during this ad. Am I lying? You wouldn't believe so if I presented the statement on a clean and beautiful website designed with Squarespace. Nothing that looks that good can possibly be wrong. Unlike this terrifying excuse for a fish, just look at it. God! There is no God. No merciful God would create this swimming avatar of despair. Squarespace. Simple to use, powerful results. Domains, e-commerce, professional support, and more. Create your website today at squarespace.com/cooptional. Squarespace. Not owned or operated by the horrors of the deep. We promise. Squarespace. Set your website apart. Like the gaping maw of a primordial! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Co-Optional Podcast. So we really haven't played enough to justify 2 hours of talking this week, but what we have done is, of course, watch the Nintendo Switch conference, and we're going one better. Mr. Jared was at it, and also got hands-on with the system, so we are going to talk a decent amount about the Nintendo Switch, I think, for the next hour or so. And then we'll conclude the show, most likely with a little bit of extra news, the releases, and, of course, the Gabe AMA, which is full of tasty little morsels that are worthy of discussion. So, Jared, I'm going to hand this over to you. We'll talk initially about, I'd like to hear, one, your impressions on the conference, and then, of course, talking about your hands-on experience, and then we'll get into the overall conference, what we've learned since then, and all that kind of thing at that point.
Sure. So when I watched the conference, I was actually already there in New York for that event, and they had us all go into one of the hotel rooms. So it was like a big group gathering of other YouTubers and journalists and reporters all there watching the event. So I had a little bit of a different experience because it wasn't just me there watching it. It was me watching it while everyone else around me was like cheering and hollering and clapping and getting hype.
Really? Was that a bunch of Nintendo fans or Nintendo staff? Please tell me it was the latter.
Fans, not staff.
Oh, God. All right.
It was mostly YouTubers, I think they're going at, or people trying to like maybe impress or have fun with other ones. It was
people who can be very easily bought. Then.
Yeah, I was like, I'm trying to really absorb this, so I had a slightly different experience, and I hope that didn't affect me too much, but it may have. Just want to throw that out there. That said, the conference was fascinating to watch because that was the most E3-like conference they did since the last time they had an E3 conference. It was lasers and people on stage and all this hype and look at all this. I liked a lot of things they saw. I liked a lot of things that they announced. Super Mario Odyssey looks freaking awesome. I'm really intrigued by Project Octopath from Square Enix.
Yep.
Fire Emblem Warriors is probably going to be super neat because they did such a good job with Hyrule Warriors. I liked a lot of things that they showed off game-wise coming to the Nintendo Switch. Everything else they talked about with like the Joy-Con, HD Rumble, it has the infrared stuff. Cool. Would have loved to see how that would actually work or any game that would use that because that was not displayed at all.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. It was... The Rumble was talked about, and I imagine we can get scenarios in our heads of how that's going to work. That whole infrared sensor on the right Joy-Con that recognizes gestures, there was no talk at all about how that was going to, what that was going to do, how it was going to work, and I assume it wasn't demonstrated at the show either for you to try out.
Nothing there that really seemed to use it. I'm really afraid that's going to end up being like the speaker in the Wii Remote, where people just completely forget about it very, very quickly. Unless someone comes up with something super cool to use it. But the whole thing is, if they have a game that does use it, it's going to be a game that has to use just a Joy-Con separated from the screen.
Yeah.
I don't...
That is a practicality issue, isn't it? Because that means that one of the three main modes of using it is going to involve something that wouldn't be compatible with that at all.
Right. So don't expect major hardcore games using infrared scanning. It's probably going to be very much like 1-2 Switch, where it's casual multiplayer stuff. It'll be fun that way, but I don't really expect a whole lot of really mind-boggling ways of this being designed into core games.
Can you explain something for me? Because this is something I did not get while watching the press conference, and I'm hoping maybe you had hands-on or some. The Ice Cube thing. What the shit was that about?
Okay, HD Rumble. I was trying to figure it out. They had 1-2 Switch on hands there, and I got to do 3 mini games. And one of them is you hold the Joy-Con like sideways like this, and you tilt it back and forth, and you feel just balls rolling in between. And you're supposed to guess how many balls are in your fake box, and then whoever player is closest wins. So I was trying to figure it out. And I think they just have multiple Rumble gyroscopes or whatever within the Joy-Con, just really tiny ones. So you feel each one individually at different intensities, like at least 3. And I don't know how else to really explain or describe it, but yeah, there's just multiples in there. So you can tell if it's like on this side or if it's down here. So if you go like this, you'll feel it go from here down to here.
It's interesting technology. I could not for the life of me figure out like how it's applicable to games. I was like, what game would ever use the 3 ice cube.
Yeah.
Like I don't follow you. It's cool. I don't follow it at all.
It's close to
was
the
impressive.
haptic feedback, really, by the sounds of it.
It was impressive, but again, it's like, how many uses can you really get out of this?
Right.
I don't know, but that was a cooler thing. Again, very weirdly described and explained within the Switch presentation. That's what I want. Is just you have to get your hand on it to be like, oh, okay.
I just assumed that there were ice cubes inside the controller by default, and they had to replace them every once in a while. That was actually the cooling system for the entire Nintendo Switch. You know, people were wondering how it could possibly run portably with that level of power. Yeah, they just shove some ice in the Joy-Cons.
Ice.
What I will say about Rumble is that, like, that's a feature that most people just seem to like anyway. Like, really, if it doesn't work for you, just turn it off. I don't think that, like, the addition of Rumble is a bad thing. I don't know if it necessarily does a great deal. If we go, like, down the haptic route and we talk about something like either what Apple's been doing with haptic feedback lately or what Valve did with the Steam controller, I can see the usefulness of it for devices that are more touch-based. But for something that has, like, real physical controls, I think there's definitely some real limitations to what haptic feedback can really do to give you that additional information. That's the whole point of haptic feedback, being able to use a touchscreen or a the sort of slidey controller that's on the Steam controller, the disc, the owl disc, owl's eyes, as I like to call them. It feels like you're using more of a physical joystick because of the haptic feedback. But in this, you have a physical joystick, so I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with the Rumble being there.
I was thinking about, like, because it's such a, like, complicated, almost over-the-top form of a Rumble system that I was trying to think of, like, what the best. I was like, how could you even? I think Mario Kart is the best way that I could think of games they have coming, where instead of I'm on the grass now, I'm rumbling, it's one side of your controller because you're starting to go off
your
the
left
course.
Wheels on the hard shoulder on the sand.
You're slowly tilting up, and it's like, oh shit, I got to move to the left now because the right side of my controller's a little out of whack instead of the whole controller shaking. I can see how that'd be interesting.
I played Mario Kart there, but we just did the battle mode, and I don't recall any kind of rumbling like that. But I wasn't going off road anywhere because it was just the battle mode.
Right. Man, I wish. It seems like really obvious to me. Like but if it's not in there, I'm like, where would you use it then? Like, it's just one of those things that's cool. I don't know that it will get any use.
I hope it's one of those things where, like, we're too dumb to think of all the cool possibilities, and
that's my hope.
Check this out, man. And we're like, oh,
the Nintendogs situation where everyone was like, the DS is shit until the Nintendogs came out, and then it's like, oh, okay, now I get it. You know, when it comes to the use of the stylus. Incidentally, I was an early adopter of the DS. It wasn't shit. The Age of Empires game that came out on launch for the DS was fucking awesome. I remember I went to the first BlizzCon. The DS wasn't out in the UK yet, so I went to a fucking random game store and bought a used DS with a copy of Age of Empires and then lost it on the London Underground.
Oh.
I got it back. I got the DS back. Didn't get Age of Empires back, though. Apparently that was far more viable and valuable than the console itself. But, I mean, you may very well be right that it's another situation where Nintendo has to show its usefulness, but the problem is sometimes it doesn't work out for third parties. It worked out with the DS, but with the 3DS, like, I don't feel they showed the usefulness of 3D enough to make it a thing. Was it Super Mario Land 3D was probably the best use of 3D on that system, and that wasn't enough to get third parties excited.
That's pretty much it. And that's the actual 3 of the 3DS is all but moot.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thing that anyone uses anymore. Like, hell, that's why they made the 2DS and took it out.
Yeah.
But with the Wii, I think with the Wii they did a pretty good job of it, although it did result in unholy amounts of Carnival Games bullshit with the motion controller, which maybe didn't really help. And there were some good examples of the controller being used, like Red Steel 2, I think, is a really good use of the Motion Plus.
Yeah.
And they probably got that idea from the Metroid Prime ports, I think, from how well the Metroid Prime on Wii is great. Because
I loved it.
Yeah, the pointer is awesome for first-person shooters in that way. So that was a bit of a mixed bag. The Wii U, I don't think anyone really used the
well, it needed third-party support to even...
Yeah, exactly. You needed actual third-party games to do that. Yeah. I think Monster Hunter used the screen as an inventory, which was helpful.
That was great.
There's a nice little feature in Tokyo Mirage Sessions where they use it as a phone, basically, and you get text messages on it, which is kind of neat. But like, it was very utilitarian. I don't think like anyone really did anything great with it, and hell, Nintendo did shit with it, like Star Fox, not Star Wars, Star Fox Zero. Yeah. So I don't know. You might be right though. Like maybe Nintendo has some great ideas for it and can show devs how to use it, as long as it's not too hard to implement.
I'm hoping that's the case. But there's nothing there that was like so mind-boggling cool. I was like, oh my god, HD Rumble is where it's at.
That's a shame.
Like, I get it.
Definitely a shame. I had hoped that for all of those features, they'd have had something on hand which would have definitely demonstrated the power of it, so that people wouldn't be asking these questions anymore.
Right.
But even with this 1 hour conference, people are still asking a ton of questions. But tell me a bit about the stuff that you actually played on the system and what you thought of it.
Sure. So I will say the system overall, it's not going to blow you away. You're not going to like play it and be like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. And I've said it before, and I know some people disagree with me, but hopefully I can explain myself and try to make it make sense. This is the least Nintendo-like console Nintendo has made since the GameCube.
Okay.
In that all of those consoles since then have had a really main gimmick that has affected the gameplay in a very particular way. GameCube had like the weird controller, even the GBA connectivity. The Wii had the obvious motion controller. The Wii had the touchpad. The Switch, the main thing is that it's a console and you can switch it to a portable. That doesn't affect the game at all. Unless like there's a game that comes out, it's like, oh no, we have to hide. Quick, switch to portable mode. But I don't think they're going to do that. So like the Switch's main gimmick, I feel just isn't actually like a gimmick that affects the console itself. So because of that, this is more in line with a mainstream core console, whatever you want to call it, that they have in the past, which is either good or bad, depending how you want to look at it. Good in that it's more in line with, like, say, PS4 or Xbox One, and it should be easier to make it more appealing to those kinds of consumers. Potentially bad because you're not going to be seeing a whole lot of crazy new innovative stuff out of it. For example, I didn't see a single game there that used the Switch's touchscreen at all. It's supposed to be a multi-touch screen. I would have loved to see some things that actually use that, and there was nothing there.
It's weird, isn't it? Because you've got the situation where some people will claim a lot of the Switch's gimmick, but I'd say like the main Switch functionality of it has 3 modes of play is not a gimmick. I think that's utility.
Yes,
I think
agree.
that stuff like the gesture stuff, that's a gimmick potentially. HD Rumble potentially a gimmick.
The motion controls is better or worse standard now. PS4's got it still in the DualShock 4. Even the Pro controller for the Switch still has it in there. Like it's just a thing that we have now. And thankfully, most things allow you to give you the option to turn that off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's with the PS4, it's actually an interesting comparison because how many games use it, and the swipe pad as well. How many games use that other than just using it as a button? Not many, really. Right. That's sort of like a failed addition, I guess, but it doesn't really affect the functionality of the PS4.
Right.
You know, which is the problem you have is, I guess, when you shove too many weird new things into a system, does that affect its viability as a system overall? And what you brought up in regards to it being a home console is interesting because, yeah, I mean, it will function as one. The issue is obviously it doesn't have the power of a PS4, even like, you know, the regular PS4. It's definitely not got the power of a PS4 Pro, and Scorpio's on the way as well.
Certainly not, no.
Yeah, I wonder how much concern that's going to raise in core gamers at all. Although, if you really care about the performance, you're probably already on a PC, right?
Right, that's kind of my thoughts. Like, if you really care about high specs, like, PC is where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then this is the question that I had then. Do either of you think that because it also is, I mean, it's lower specs already, but because it also has to be portable, that because they wanted the portable version to kind of resemble what you were getting already with the like console version of it, that overall graphically everything's, I don't know if dumbed down's the right word, but is lower? Do you think that's going to end up being like, in order to keep everything sort of the same, everything's going to be lower overall?
I mean, the screen on the thing is 720p. We know that. I'd love to hear what your impression of that screen is, considering you've actually seen it in action. Like, does it look good?
That screen is freaking gorgeous.
Cool.
Like, the moment where you take it off the dock to play, like, it's instant. Maybe, like, half a second of it going from TV to in your hands, and it's freaking beautiful. my first thought was like, oh wow, this looks like the PS Vita screen, but it actually looks better than the PS Vita screen because it does have a higher resolution in it.
Cool. Because like the Vita screen was good. Like
Yes,
it was a nice screen, and that ran at 960 by 544, which especially if you're on a PC, that sounds ridiculous. But bear in mind that it was a fairly small screen, and it was a very vibrant screen. It was a very colorful screen. It did color reproduction really well. I still think the Vita's a fucking phenomenal handheld, but you know,
it is.
Unless you want to play visual novels on it these days, you're not going to get a lot of support.
Yep. The same on the Switch. Gorgeous screen, very bright, very vibrant. Like that was probably the biggest wow moment to me at the whole time. So when I first got to take it off and see it just being played on the screen, I was like, oh my God, that looks awesome. And another thing, I actually tested this with 2 Zelda stations next to me, is that there were reports early on about how the Switch could perform better while it's docked versus it being in portable mode. From what I saw, not the case. It is the exact amount of power and the exact same kind of performance. There were no issues. I had I had 2 Zelda stations, and one was open next to me, so I pressed start on both at the same time. Like I popped off the Switch and just kind of looked over at the screen and kind of did that thing as they were going at the same time and trying to awkwardly run around with one hand on each controller.
Okay.
Didn't see any kind of performance issues or slight lowdown in processor hertz or anything like that.
Versus one versus the other. Yeah, it seems like what they're aiming for with their first-party titles is parity in performance, but obviously 1080p or 900p versus 720p. And you're going to get a performance boost from that. It's for sure sharper image on TV. Absolutely. Totally, yeah, but the frame rate is pretty similar. Unfortunately, of course, we do now know for certain that despite what other sites had claimed that they've been told by Nintendo, and it's possible that they were told this or that they were just making shit up, or that the reps at the time didn't know, Zelda does not run at 60. It's confirmed to 30 FPS now, which is unfortunate. And considering all the rest of the games are running at 60, that's, to me, that's bad. But then again, when was the last Zelda game outside of Hyrule Warriors that ran at 60?
Yeah.
It still looks awesome.
Oh, aesthetically, it's beautiful.
Gorgeous. It plays awesome. Everything I've played with it so far, it's a really fun game, so I'm super excited for it. Yeah.
I do want to touch on this a little bit because I've been seeing reports about this going out for Zelda as well, and it's frankly misinformation. I want to clear it up a little bit. It is absolutely 30 frames per second, and there's a lot of reports out there the people saying frame rate dips and performance issues while it's being played on the Switch, and that's half true. They had 2 demo stations set up at this event for Zelda. One of them was a hands-off demo where a Nintendo representative played through it for you, showing off a Guardian fight, going through one of the shrine dungeons, and taming horses. And another one was hands-on, playing basically the literal beginning of the game. But that demo that they had for the beginning of the game that people actually got to play was the exact same build of the game from last E3 that was playing on the Wii U.
Yeah, the build is old, which does mean that if people are reporting frame dips, it's more likely due to the age of the build, not due to the game. I imagine they'll be able to get it to 30 and keep it at 30 stable.
I think so too. And I played it at E3. Even at E3, I noticed there were frame rate dips and it chugged at a few places. Even at this recent Nintendo Switch event, where that Wii U E3 build being played on the Switch, I still saw some of the chugs in there. But the new demo build that they had, that was hands-off direct feed capture, that was on the Switch, I hadn't seen gameplay of anywhere before. That ran beautifully. I saw no issues there. Mm-hmm. So the reports, everything coming out saying it's trugs and runs like crap. Not entirely true. I'm not saying that won't be the case when the game actually comes out, but that was because it was using an older build.
Yeah, well, if they're targeting 30 and not 60, that's a far more realistic goal. You know, if what was said, because there were several days before Nintendo finally came out and said, yeah, it's at 30. I think it was either today or yesterday they confirmed it. They allowed these rumors, and even though these sites had claimed that they'd heard it from Nintendo themselves to kind of run amok for a while, sure, they'll be able to keep it at 30. It's a shame that it's not at 60. You know, the rest of their stuff, Mario is at 60, based on what we saw. Splatoon is at 60. Mario Kart, of course, is, because it's been that way for ages. And I mean, honestly, that's what I've enjoyed about Nintendo's design philosophy with their first-party stuff. Most of it is 60. They don't make games to compete on a graphical powerhouse level with stuff that's on other machines, but they pick aesthetics that still look good. That
Right.
I mean, you go like I'd say I use the term timeless for a lot of their stuff. Like, I don't necessarily think that during the N64 era that was true, but that was the shitty Polygon era. None of that stuff was timeless. But the modern stuff, Mario Kart 8 is gonna look good in 10 years.
Wind Waker 10 years later looks good.
Course.
Mid HD still looks good.
Oh yeah,
because they're non-realistic aesthetics, and you can do a lot with a little when you pick an interesting aesthetic to go with. Super Mario still looks good.
Yeah, and Zelda does look awesome.
Oh,
Again,
yeah, I love the
aesthetic. You actually get to play it, have it in front of you. The opening scene, like, it's breathtaking. Like, I got legit, like, emotional, where within 3 minutes, you go from Link waking up, putting on his clothes, and walking out, and the game just pulls the camera back, just says, this is your world. You're going to be going through all of it. Play. And it's like the best introduction to an open world game I have ever seen. Far better than all of Elder Scrolls' you're a prisoner, here's a crappy tutorial, escape. Whatever you have to go through before you're finally open world. Like, it just puts you right in there at the beginning. It's like, holy crap. It's awesome.
Cool. What else did you get a chance to play on the thing while you were there? You mentioned 1-2 Switch. Was it just the one minigame you played, or
they had a few. They had like these weird like phone booth stations set up where you like walk in there to like kind of close off the sound so you can hear each other and the Switch.
Okay.
I got to do cowboy one, samurai one, and then the ball one. The cowboy one is exactly what you saw in the trailers, where you just look at each other and you wait for a sound cue and you quick draw and you hit the trigger. And the game actually does know if you're like pointing your controller down or not, and not just like staying here.
Stops you cheating. Yeah.
You need to put the actual motion in there. The sword one was one player fake holds a sword in their Joy-Con, and the other player has to catch it. So it's kind of like the quick draw one, only it's up to the other person when they actually swing, and you have to like bring your hand up and hit the trigger on the Joy-Con to quick grab it.
These games don't use the screen, do they?
No, you really just play with each other, and the screen is just there to be like, go, here's the one.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's the whole point of the 1-2 Switch.
Real interesting, because it started discussions. Like, I think even like someone from Giant Bomb brought this up. Like, it's not the usual, this isn't a video game stuff from people who are just super elitist about it. They're like, no, this genuinely isn't a video game because there's no video. So it's a game, sure, it's a toy, but it's not an actual video game because you need a screen for that.
Right.
I mean, I guess that's right, but I don't think it matters, really.
Now, I will say about 1-2 Switch, and I'm sure a lot of other people have already said this, there is no reason that should not be a pack-in title.
It absolutely should be. Yeah, I said the same thing.
It would show in so much more about the Joy-Con. You have a 2-player game right out of the box.
Absolutely.
It wasn't so fun or so cool that I was like, I'm going to go out and buy that right away for $60 or whatever.
No way. It looks like even worse value than Nintendo Land was. I like Nintendo Land, but
awesome.
Yeah, it still should have been a fucking pack-in with every system right from the start. But Nintendo Land is good. Like, there's some good games in there. But this, no, not for full price. You gotta be kidding me.
I personally have no intent of actually purchasing 1-2 Switch, mostly because I don't think I'm going to have a whole lot of people over to play these very casual 2-player games with. But if you're in a household with brothers or sisters or family members you want to play with, absolutely great game that way. But it's very hard to justify paying for that separately from the console itself.
I have a feeling they're going to plunge the price on that real quick. Like, I don't think that's going to shift units at all. If they'd maybe put because there's no video element to it, they can't even exploit the fan service aspect of it. Like, Nintendo Land uses Nintendo IP. There's a Zelda game and a Mario game.
Like there was a lot of development costs in graphics.
No, there's apparently literally
none.
Development
cost.
Even $40 is not worth it.
$20, I would buy that in a heartbeat for $20.
I'd go closer to 10, but regardless of that though, I mean, if what they should have fucking done, if they wanted to encourage people to use that damn online system of theirs, and maybe they will do it when they kick in the you've got to pay for this, I think in July they said, or August, give 1-2 Switch away in the first month and let people fucking keep it.
Out of all of the launch, because speaking of launch titles, out of all of them, and let's like go through
5 of them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like day one launch or not launch window.
We're talking
even
like
launch
more-
window. We can
Yeah.
go through spring. Just looking at this, I imagine Breath of the Wild is going to be the big reason people buy this console. Just
Yes.
It's gonna be the same as the Wii launch, man. I was working in a game at the time, and I was selling those fucking systems, and
I was
fuck
working at GameStop.
my manager left me alone that day. Literally, like, he didn't come into work because he knew what a nightmare it was gonna be. Fuck him for that. He actually got fired later for stealing from the till, so he was a fucking crook. But there you go. Retail.
But
I
like
don't miss you.
going through there though, it's
That was
like
all sold.
Breath of the Wild was going to be the big draw. Did you play Bomberman? Because
I did play Bomberman.
Is it good?
It's Bomberman. We only play the battle mode. Up to 8 players on a single system is super cool.
Not as good as 10 on the Sega Saturn. Saturn Bomberman. Fucking
The Saturn
superior
Bomberman was
product.
awesome. And all the different Hudson characters are super cool.
Damn right.
It was a very much Super Nintendo Saturn era Bomberman, where it was like top-down view. We did like one of the classic battle maps. I knew all of the power-ups right away. It played just fine. I was using one of the Joy-Con controllers, even like the weird middle stick. Played just fine. You could choose your different Bomberman colors, and each one has like a different personality. I played as Blue, who looked like he just wanted a nap the entire time.
Cool.
He was like totally nonchalant about winning. He's like, "Oh, you guys blew up. I guess that means I won." You can also like change like the little dongle ball on their head. They didn't have any.
Nice.
That's another thing you can change. It was Bomberman. I have no idea what the single player is going to be like. If it's going to be a campaign, much like Bomberman 64 or Bomberman 2, I think even had one. I don't know what that, because they didn't have that on display. Bomberman, super fun. $30 to $40 tops.
Yeah.
Currently pre-order for full price for that.
There's probably a lot of placeholder prices. I'm
Yeah,
hoping.
true.
Is 60 for Bomberman? No.
No, not a chance. That's
It seemed-
especially bear in
it
mind
seemed
there's probably
the Konami logo
Bomberman
on a
games on.
Bomberman game was weird.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Hmm.
probably virtual console versions of Bomberman, and I'd say they all pretty much play the same. As long as you're not playing Bomberman Zero, oh, Jesus Christ. Kill that
Right.
game with
Like,
anything you can find.
but like going through the rest of these, I mean, those two I'm really interested in. But the rest of them, Just Dance, don't really care.
don't.
1-2 Switch, like if it was with the console, great.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna buy it.
No.
Skylanders, whatever.
No one was playing Skylanders there.
No, of course not. That's available on a bunch of different systems anyway.
Yeah.
Chances
And then
are
we
you're
hit
not going to
March.
rebuy it.
And March is I Am Setsuna, which exists already,
That's
which
what
is
we
a
see.
good game. You should totally play it, but you can play it now.
Yeah.
Tetris is coming out, and
Puyo Pop and Tetris. I didn't get to play that one. I saw some people playing it. I only saw him like at one point playing Puyo Pop and then was playing Tetris. I think it's just 2 games in one, more or less.
yeah,
Okay. I mean, that's not a system seller anymore, I'm afraid.
yeah,
Maybe it's what 30
Snipper
years ago.
Clips.
Stupid Clips is awesome.
Is that fun? What is that?
So cool. So this is a cooperative puzzle game where you're little pieces of construction paper and you can rotate your bodies. And if you lay each other on top each other, you press a button and you snip that portion off the other person. So some of the levels will be like, here's a dotted line, fit yourself into there. So you have to like rotate your bodies to snip off each other so you can fit within these dotted lines. So it's a lot of communication based stuff where you have like a single screen of a puzzle, but the game doesn't explicitly tell you, here's how to solve the puzzle. So the ones I saw was you clip each other into like a little J shape or into like a box, and then you both get into it, and the game's like, good, move on to the next stage. And the next stage was like, oh, here's a heart. Figure out how you can fit into a heart. And you realize, oh, one person only makes up like a 3/4 of the heart. So you need to get 2 people like in there to lay over each other. And the stage after that was just a basketball hoop and a button. If you press the button, a basketball comes down. And you're like, okay, well, we gotta get the basketball into the basketball hoop. So we like I clipped them so that instead of like this square part of the head, it was clipped in such a way that it became like a little scoop. Jumped on my head. I pressed the button. The basketball fell down onto the head, and then we like walked over, and he like tilted so that the ball would go down into the basketball hoop. It was just a really cool puzzle game, very charming. It's up to 4 players. It's another one of those that actually makes really good use of just pulling out the Joy-Cons from the sides and playing it. And
It's one of the. It's a little Nintendo developed game that's going to be digital only by the sounds of it. There's no.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, according to what I've looked up, there's no confirmation for physical edition yet. They're looking at like a $20 downloadable title.
Oh,
And-
that's awesome.
I mean, I think that
$20
is a good thing. I mean, I made the argument up to this point that like this machine's probably going to be like a indie co-op or couch competitive machine. Like, And if Nintendo is actually making games of that model, that's good. Like that's a good way to lead the way. I'm hoping they're making a lot of those sort of smaller games that really make use of that.
Yes, between if I had a choice for like a launch day multiplayer title, I would absolutely take Snipperclips over 1-2 Switch any day.
Yeah.
Snipperclips is so good.
Yeah, you have to wait a few weeks after launch to get it. It is within the launch window, though.
Right, yeah, well, don't forget about that one because I highly recommend that one. That was great.
Cool. Good to know.
The other two that are coming, well, three, that I'm really interested in these three. First, ARMS. Did you play that?
ARMS was the very first thing I played. More fun than you would expect.
It looks good.
So,
it looked like a weird cartoony version of Virtual On to me, especially in the way that it controlled.
It more or less is. I have gameplay videos of all of these over on my gameplay channel, ProJared Plays, if anyone wants to see more to get more thoughts on it. So ARMS, big thing that people don't realize, you don't have to use motion controls. There are options to play the game without motion controls. Now there we had to use motion controls because they wanted to show off the Joy-Cons. So I had the 2 Joy-Cons with the wrist strap attached to it, which isn't just a little thing that ties on. It's actually a whole like shell that clips onto it and extends the shoulder buttons so they're a little more comfortable on your thumbs.
Okay.
That was one of the things I actually liked about the wrist strap connectors. So you hold it like this. You got 2 buttons, a ZL, ZR, L, and R. L did a dash, R did a jump. You hit both at the same time to activate your super ultimate move. And then for controls, which works surprisingly well, is like you tilt them in the directions like go left, go right, forward, back, jump, push them together to block. And then to punch was just punching forward, or you can twist your punch so your arm went that way. One of the things they did with that gave the game more depth that I wish they showed off more in the actual initial trailer was that between each round, you can change the weapon on your fist.
Oh.
And they have different properties.
Okay.
So it seemed like each character had like a standard boxing glove kind of punchy attack. The character I played as a Ninjara who had like one fist was like a chakram. I changed another one into like a trident kind of thing. So one had more of a vertical coverage, the other one had more horizontal. I'd imagine it probably adjusts punch speed as well. I couldn't tell you for sure. So you could do like air dashes. The ninja's special thing, like when he dashes in midair, he actually vanishes for a brief moment. So it helps masks your movement to your opponent. If you hold the dash button, it actually charges your fists. You can do like a slightly more powerful punch. If you punch both at the same time, it allows you to grab them. And that's the best way to get through someone's ultimate. But if you see a grab coming in, you can try to jump and dodge it or punch your way out of the grab before it actually lands into you. So it did have way more depth into it than you thought. I even tried to do the Wii Sports boxing thing where you just go like this if you win because I wanted to see. Not the case. All that happened is just maybe grab over and over again, and I was a huge target, and it didn't work at all. So it very is much more like Virtual On, where you have to be very particular with your movements and your dodges and your jumps. All the characters have different stats and abilities. The mummy guy was super slow, but he had a crap ton of hit points. Ribbon Girl had a quadruple jump, so she could stay suspended in the air quite a bit. Plus her fist weapons, like one of them I changed into like party poppers. So instead of punching, she like shot confetti at them instead. So it was like kind of like a little mini ranged weapon. Didn't do a whole lot of damage, but that was cool. Arms was another one that I had way more fun with than I really thought I was going to.
Cool.
I like the look of it when I saw it, I gotta say. The only concern I had was the motion control thing, in the sense that if you make a competitive game, tying it into motion control has 2 disadvantages. One, the inherent potential inaccuracy of motion control, and secondly, how tired you get for long play sessions. But the fact that it does have the option to play with a regular controller just kind of gets rid of that problem.
Can I tell you my dream? My dream is going to an Evo and seeing this fought like real steel. Where competitors are like real steel, and they're like, oh shit, and they're like dodging. That'd be amazing.
It would be hilarious to watch. Like,
yes,
I
don't think it's Evo worthy. I don't think it's quite there in terms of depth and complexity. Unless like a neat little side thing and people are just playing it, I don't think it's quite there.
Outside of Evo, like in the lobby, this guy's like,
you got conventions and people are like, come on by, throw them down arms, baby, I'm ready to go. You're like,
I love that. Yeah, man. That when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh shit, we're real steel now, son. We're real steel." I'm so excited.
I do want to see what kind of single-player mode or campaign it has. Unlockables it has to have some kind of online to really justify paying full price for it. There's only 5 characters there. I'm sure there's going to be more, or perhaps even some DLC characters. But what I played of ARMS was very positive.
Cool. All right. Well,
Yeah,
then,
I did like the look
did
of
you
that.
play any of? You said you played Mario Kart 8. Yeah, I assume that's just
I did play Mario Kart 8.
Awesome. Is it?
Well, big thing with Mario Kart 8 is that the battle mode is back and it's good again.
Cool.
I played Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. They had battle mode, but it wasn't really a mode. It was a battle race. You picked any of the previous courses from the game, like your standard race course. You just go in any direction, and you kind of battle, but not really because you're still making laps. It is super boring and stupid, and you're better off just standing in one place and letting people come to you and hitting them with stuff.
Yeah, you need an actual arena for that mode.
It was really dumb. This brings back actual battle mode arenas. I played on one of the new maps from Splatoon 2 was a battle map in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I was playing as a Squid Girl. So you have like the 5 balloons. The mode I played was point-based, so as you dealt damage to balloons, you got a point. If you got hit, you lost a point. If you lose all 5 balloons, you die for a few seconds and you come back with 3 balloons. If you die from there, you die for a few seconds, you come back with 1 balloon.
Cool.
Holding 2 items was a big game changer, especially for battle mode. I don't know if that's going to be the case for the actual race mode. I think it is. But having 2 items for battle mode was awesome. I also got to play on a remake of SNES Battle Circuit 1, this first battle map from Super Mario Kart and Super Nintendo. Only they changed it so they put some ramps in there so you can use the hang glider. You can drive up onto the different colored rails to get around stuff. They brought back the feather, allowing you to do a jump, and if you land on someone, you steal a balloon from them like the mushroom. And the Boo is back, so you can steal items from people again. So I would say Mario Kart 8, still super fun. It's Mario Kart 8. It's hard to not have a good time with that. I think it's worth buying on the Switch. If you did not have Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, this one's absolutely worth it. Or if you had Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, but you didn't get all of the DLC, then I think you could justify having a fun, good price with that. However, if you had Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U and you bought all the DLC for it and had everything and already played a bunch of it, harder to justify paying for it again on the Nintendo Switch, unless you really want to play the battle mode or you have a bunch of money laying around.
Sure.
But Mario Kart 8 is still, it's hard to not be a solid title when it's a port of an already solid title.
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
We played it on ad hoc mode. We just had the tablet screens. It was a little setup. It was just the 4 of us. No connection issues. It was super fast, very easy to set up and do.
Yeah, and that'll go up to 8 apparently with that sort of that wireless LAN mode, which is great. That's also a great way of avoiding their online system, which is probably for the best. Let's be honest.
Another thing I noticed, and this is my own speculation, it's not confirmed anywhere, is that I'm pretty positive because of the nature of that Wii U tablet screen. I don't think the Switch is going to ever support any kind of 4-person split screen local multiplayer games.
Well, the screen's just too small, right?
Exactly. It'd be way too small. So I don't think they're going to have that at all. So when I was playing Mario Kart, they had a 1-person mode and 2-person mode, but not 3 or 4.
Yeah, some people have already sort of said that with the tabletop mode, the chances are that screen's just going to be uncomfortably small unless you're really close to it.
It would be. It'd be so terrible for a 4-player.
I'm a bit concerned about that, honestly. I have to wonder if that's going to limit the ability to play stuff like, say, you put Towerfall on it. I have a feeling that screen might be a bit small to play multiplayer Towerfall using a single Switch portable screen. That may very well limit it.
Yeah, so because of that, I don't think games are going to be programmed to have 4-player split screen. There are 4-player local multiplayer games like Bomberman. That worked great, but for actual, where you need to have your own perspective and divide it up into quadrants, I just don't think they're going to have that at all on the Switch and just not bother.
Yeah, that does seem likely. It's even a concern, even if it is a single screen game, because a lot of those zoom out quite far, especially with more players. So you might run into some real issues using that tabletop mode to do that if you don't have a TV. Which that would be a real kick in the teeth. I'm hoping. I don't know. I'd have to get my hands on it to try it out. But the main reason that I'd want one of these things is as a portable couch co-op, couch competitive machine. And if that screen just isn't up to snuff, then that might cause a problem with that.
Did you play Has Been Heroes?
I didn't get to it all. I walked by it several times. I was like, I really want to see what that's about. And I didn't get to it all. All I could see was some sort of indie strategy RPG game, just from like the brief times I got to walk past it.
Yeah.
I really wanted to. I sadly didn't.
The treehouse made it look kind of like Plants vs. Zombies, kind of?
It's like, a bit like that, yeah. It's there's quite a few games on mobile that I think are relatively similar to this idea of sort of a running battle RPG that kind of all plays out in real time. But this looks like it's a lot more in depth. It's actually by Frozen Byte, the guys that made Trine. I was initially confused because I thought this was the new No More Heroes game. Has Been Heroes. I was like, no, it's nothing like that. But yeah, I think it is by Frozen Byte, who make good games. Trine 3 was a bit of a misstep, but hey, you know, we all have those. And it does look like a more complex strategy action version of those mobile side-scrolling RPGs. So I'm in on that, but it's also multi-format. It's coming out on PC, PS4. It's not an exclusive or anything.
Yeah, did not play Has Been Heroes. I played Disgaea 5.
How's that?
Disgaea 5.
It's Disgaea, right?
I mean, all right. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Looked great. I don't not much more to say about that. There you go.
Disgaea.
Another main big one that I also played there. I also played Splatoon 2.
They had it was a very limited demo of that, right? Because that's not out till summer.
It's not till the summer. So yeah, it was very much a demo. They had a single map, which is the first map they showed in the Splatoon 2 trailer. And they had 4 loadouts you could choose from. The classic splatter shot, the roller, the sniper rifle, and the new dualies slat weapon. Splatoon is super fun, you guys. I don't know how much you got into it, but I really enjoyed Splatoon, and Splatoon 2 was just as much fun. I was playing on the Pro controller, and even on the Pro controller, they still had the motion controls on. So it was, right stick to turn left and right, but you can still use this to aim. Of course, you can turn it off. But yeah, even the Pro controller just has the motion controls in there for aiming. It worked great. I won a prize. I took first overall for my team, so I got a little squid boy.
He's being bribed into liking that game. A little squid boy thing. I mean, I think Splatoon will be... I mean, the first one was good. The second one will probably be good as well. I just wonder how much they're going to add to it, how different it will really be. I know some people have been reporting the demo didn't show a lot of new stuff, but then again, it is just a one-level demo.
Demo didn't show new stuff at all. Didn't see anything for going back to Inkopolis, any kind of customization, what the single-player mode is going to be like, how much more new is going to be in the multiplayer stuff. But that is going to be a great, solid title for the Switch because Splatoon 2 is super fun.
Yeah, we'll see what's going on with that. I mean, launch window-wise, I don't know. Some people are saying that it has a great launch window. I don't agree. Outside of Zelda, I think it's a fairly... the launch window stuff's a pretty hard sell. The stuff that's really pushing the system for me, such as the new SMT game, Fire Emblem Warriors, whatever other Fire Emblem stuff they announced, they probably will announce something. Splatoon 2, Mario Odyssey, that's all outside the launch window. That's spring to the holidays.
My argument is very few consoles have ever actually had a good launch day.
That's true, yeah. I mean, launch day, definitely.
Yeah, especially for stuff that isn't just third-party ports or things you already hadn't seen before. I would say maybe the Nintendo 64 was like the last really good one. It's had Mario 64, Star Wars, Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Ever since then, it's a lot of usually port stuff or stuff that's pretty good.
Yeah, it'll be like their first party system seller. They'll have one of those at least, sometimes two. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're layer quality.
Yeah,
right. Not necessarily what you want. It is a good point though. I mean, if we go back to I'm just gonna let's go through a couple of those actually. What was the PS3's launch titles?
Oh my god.
Because I mean, I thought that was relatively strong. I'm just checking here. We'll look at the United States launch.
Was it Killzone?
Their big one was Resistance: Fall of Man. That was their big
Resistance.
Killer app. Yeah, which was good. They had... Yeah, actually, this was a fairly weak one, because I remember they had Genji Days of the Blade, and I loved Genji on the PS2. I thought it was a fucking awesome game. Days of the Blade was a huge fucking disappointment. That's the giant enemy crab game, by the way, for those who don't remember. This thing also came out at $600, which didn't help it. They had a Ridge Racer game for it, but you're right, like, a lot of this was cross-platform ports, like Madden, COD 3 was out on launch, but that had obviously already been out, I think.
Xbox 360 launch was like Call of Duty 2, Gun, Madden 06.
Cameo was their thing.
Look, oh, Cameo.
I was working for all of these, and it was, we spent a lot of time going over those launch lineups, trying to figure out, what's one, how many of these do we need to stock, and two, which ones do we push on people. Perfect Dark Zero was supposed to be a killer app and ended up being a piece of shit. That didn't help. We sold a lot of copies of that, and then we had a lot of them traded in real fast. Let me put it that way.
Look, it was no better earlier on. I remember PlayStation 2, we stayed up all night for that release, and the only game that I could find that was worth my investment, this is why I'm a fan of the franchise, was Dynasty Warriors 2.
Yeah, dude, Dynasty Warriors.
And that's the very first game I had for PlayStation 2, and it was the first game I had for a while, because there was not a lot of games for that. And I became a massive fan of that franchise because of that game.
I'm going to actually disagree on the 360 launch lineup, because I'm just looking through it here, and actually, they had PGR 3, Project Gotham. That was good. They had, you mentioned Gun, of course. Condemned Criminal Origins was launch title.
Oh, Condemned was fun.
That was a good one.
I didn't remember being launched. Condemned was fun. The first one was.
Yeah, it definitely was. Cameo, I liked Cameo. I don't think it was usual rare quality, but I thought it was pretty good. Obviously, COD 2, their version of COD 2 at the time was a very good version of it. They obviously had the ports. You had your FIFAs, your NBAs. You had a good version of Need for Speed Most Wanted on there. There was a version of Ridge Racer 6, which was good as well. You had a Tony Hawk's game, which was American Wasteland, which was a pretty good one. The thing is that there were 18 launch titles in the US and Canada, which is a stark contrast to what we currently know about the Switch, which is 5.
Yeah.
Right.
It was just sheer size. Like, at least you had choice here. No, I mean, you're right. These are not all, like, fucking massive system sellers, and some of them
even
were shit.
Compared to the Wii U, like, even the Wii U launched with a bunch of third-party ports. Mass Effect 3, Darksiders, Assassin's Creed.
That's exactly what I just went to go look up, too, is what Wii U was. And even they had a ton of stuff, yeah?
The list of Wii U launch titles by region, is like... There's quite a lot. Actually, you're right. A lot of it is third party, definitely. But they had a few third party exclusives on there. Ubisoft went big on the Wii U, and obviously it didn't work out for them. Zombie U was the big hardcore one. They released Rabbids Land on that on the same day. Sing Party was on the same day. Just Dance 4 was a release title for them. I thought it was a Rayman on there, but I guess the Rabbids counts as that. Yeah, but you're right. There's a bunch of ports on there. There was Epic Mickey 2, which unfortunately wasn't as good as it should have been.
The Wii U certainly had a stronger launch lineup. Even if it was stuff that was available on other systems, but just in case you missed out on those.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I think, honestly, that's even better for the Switch, which is actually disappointing that we're not seeing a lot of it because of the portability. Portable Skyrim is a selling point. I know Skyrim's old as fuck, but outside of playing it on the ludicrously expensive Razer Edge or like a Surface Pro or a laptop, you don't have a $300 portable option to play Skyrim on that you can hold in your hands.
Yeah.
That is so. I mean, I would like to see more third-party ports simply on the basis of portability. It is a selling point. People will buy the same game twice if they can play it on the go, which wasn't the case with the Wii U. So I guess it's not surprising that we're not seeing a ton of third-party support so far, considering what happened with the Wii U. But
even Ubisoft is usually like right there to back Nintendo. Even they're like, I don't know, this sucked last time.
They got burned. They threw a lot in on the Wii U and it didn't pan out for them. It panned out for them on the Wii. They sold a shit ton of copies of Just Dance and Raving Rabbids games and stuff like that, but it didn't work out for them on the Wii U at all.
So I do want to also say, we kind of mentioned it earlier, the Nintendo DS and 3DS both launched with super sucky launch lineups. 3DS even so much for that they had apologized for it, gave away a bunch of virtual console games, and gave it a price cut. And now they're both amazing systems and handhelds. Like, they have a bunch of awesome games out there.
Yeah, launch lineup doesn't necessarily mean a lot. I mean, bearing in mind this thing is apparently already like very much sold out on pre-orders and stuff like that. It's a good idea, especially with Nintendo. It's a good idea to wait. I mean, hell, 4 months after launch, the 3DS had a huge price slash. So if you bought it on launch, You felt like a real fucking sucker. I can't. God, I bought I think 5 titles on the launch of the 3DS, and not a single one of them kept me playing. Like I got the Ghost Recon.
I did the Ghost Recon too. I was like, ooh, XCOM.
It was all right.
It was just okay. It was just okay enough.
The Pilot Wings I didn't care about really. I got the Street Fighter port for it, which was okay. Soon after that, they released a version of Dead or Alive, which actually played really well. Dead or Alive Dimensions. But you're right. For a while, it was just a bad idea. One
of the things I got an opportunity to actually interview Reggie Fils-Aimé, the president of Nintendo of America, and one of the things I asked him was I said that when the Wii U was launching, I remember that E3 they had a big screen, a big old list like here's all these companies developing for the Wii U, and I was like, wow, that's really impressive looking. And now the Switch has got this big thing like look at all these developers making for the Switch. I was like, okay, cool, but you also had it on the Wii U. How are you going to make sure that the Switch maintains that third-party support unlike the Wii U? And he actually had a really good answer for that. And it was basically came down to they screwed up because their online system was so bad. He said developers like to be able to monetize the things that they release and continue to monetize off them from DLC or multiplayer or keeping people playing it. And Nintendo's online infrastructure for Wii U just wasn't good for that. People couldn't like make expansion packs very easily or do a whole lot of season pass stuff. So that's one of the things.
It makes sense. Yeah.
That's one of the things he said they're keeping in mind going into the Switch is having a way better online system. Wish they would have showed something or said something about it, but I guess it's better.
As far as we know, there's nothing but negativity around it right now because the only thing they announced about it was it's going to cost money, and that fucking virtual console game you get is a rental and not a full, you get to keep this thing, which means that already right off the bat, people with PlayStation or Xbox are laughing at it. People with a PC are like, paying for online. What a joke. But they do need to show something good about it, because let's be honest, like Nintendo's always been behind on the online stuff. They still don't have a unified account for everything. I wonder what they're going to do about transferring maybe Wii U Virtual Console stuff over. I mean, hell, you had to pay for an upgrade for some of them if you wanted to get it from the Wii to the Wii U. And without the unified account, you had to go through all sorts of bullshit to get all that done.
Another thing I asked was, how many times do we have to keep buying the same damn Virtual Console games across all your platforms until it's tied to the account? And he had a very PR answer, which was, we hear this all the time, and we hear your concerns, and we're working to address it.
Good. I would hope so. Yeah, because remember, you could play your old Wii games, your Wii Virtual Console games on the Wii U, but you had to load up the Wii virtual environment in that to get to them. It's like, that's a lot of steps to play fucking Super Mario.
Yeah.
That's a little excessive.
But they're aware.
Mm-hmm. They'll have to do something about it. That I don't know how far they're really going to go down the digital rabbit hole, considering the storage on that thing. Obviously, it's got a bit more than the Wii U did, but I still don't like this reliance on fucking micro SD cards. They're not reliable across long term. A lot of them have speed problems. Getting one that's as fast as even a 5,400 modern RPM drive, not even talking about 7,200 or 10,000, and SSDs aren't even part of the fucking discussion. It's pretty fucking hard. You need like a UHS card to do that. Most of them run, even class 10s, I think around 50 to 60 megabytes random read, which versus a modern 5,400 RPM is more like double that, like 110, 120. And the problem is a lot of people are just going to buy the cheapest card they can find.
Yeah.
And they're going to find that, not only is this not reliable over a long period of time, but it's slow as fuck. So if you're running your games off that, that's going to be a problem for a lot of people.
While we're talking about the online, can we talk about the whole app for voice chat and lobby and the like?
Yes, please. I'd love to know.
Have you heard about this at all?
No.
Okay.
This is new to me.
There's another thing I asked Reggie about, or something he brought up when discussing their online plans. For voice chat, lobby, friends list, it's not going to be tied to the system itself. Rather, they are developing an app for mobile devices that you use to see your friends list, who's online, who's playing what, and I believe using that for your voice chat.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
Right. So instead of like having like a headset connected to your Switch and you play, you check your phone, scrolls like, oh, Jesse Cox is playing Fire on the Warriors. I'll join in too, and then I'll connect a Bluetooth earpiece to my phone or something, and I'll call you up to a voice chat over the phone and be like, "What's up, Jesse? Let's play games."
I
my mind's like, "What? That's weird and different. How dare you?" But the other hand's like, "Oh, maybe."
Yeah, I don't. I'm curious how much access the app grants people, because there's some people, boy, would I love to play the game with them on that app with that phone, but also, boy, would I like them never to know what my phone number is. Like that kind of there's a line there that I'm like, I could try it, but I'm a little concerned that is insane. So I
imagine they'll hide that data. They're good at hiding data for everything else inside of a bunch of bullshit, so they probably will. I mean, I'm sorry, I was kind of dealing with a thing in chat where people are arguing that micro SD cards are not actually that bad, which again is untrue. Go look at the benchmarks. If you want one that actually does run well, you are going to have to pay quite a lot of money for it. And again, the problem is that most people don't, as evidenced by the chat, don't even understand micro SD in the first place, and the fact that there are 12 different classes of them, and your average Joe Schmo consumer is not going to go and buy a UHS-2 top-of-the-line capacity micro SD. They're going to buy some fucking shitty 64GB class 4, and then they're going to see, oh, this has like a random read of 30 megabytes per second, which is a fifth of the speed of a good 5400 RPM drive that can random read at about 110, 120 on a consistent basis. Yes, I do my research!
Right. Nintendo Online.
Yeah, a lot of other people don't, obviously, but there you go. Anyway,
so
the online system is going to be interesting.
The thing with the app that I was like, okay, I get this, is say I'm out and about and I'm just playing my Switch and I check my phone and I see someone's online playing. It's like, oh, that way I can easily check to see online while I'm out there. So that way I have like a voice chat thing with me while I'm out and about. Mm-hmm. That begs the question though, if I could check my phone to see who's online to play games with them, how is my Switch going to get online while I'm out and about?
I mean,
that's good.
Use your phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot. I mean, the thing doesn't have 4G. We know that.
Yeah, if you could set up, say, your phone as a hotspot, that'd be cool.
Yeah, you can totally do that. That's something you can do right now. I don't know how the latency will be. I mean, I use my phone as a hotspot quite often. It's okay for media playback. For gaming, it can be a bit shaky.
Yeah.
Ping is an issue with that. But, I mean, the thing is this, it depends where you are. If you're in a city, you're going to probably have access to Wi-Fi in a lot of places. If you're in a smaller town or in the country, that's going to be a bit trickier, certainly.
Well, I mean, I think that goes to what a lot of news outlets are reporting is, and it's weird that out of all the announcements, the one thing that people have jumped on because everyone has to hate on something is the hidden costs of the Switch, which is all these extras and bonuses and buying another controller is like $50, and
it's 80 if you want a set of Joy-Cons, 70 if you want a Pro.
Jesus Christ,
that's a hard sell. I mean, DualShock and Xbox One controllers are 50 or less at this point. Yeah, I know the Pro's got motion, but the whole point of the Pro is not using gimmicky stuff, like, isn't it? Isn't that supposed to be the real controller? We don't want that, surely, in that. But, I mean, there may be third-party solutions to the Pro. I don't think there will be to the Joy-Cons, certainly. I can't imagine a third-party company being able to make those, right? So we're going to be stuck with...
Probably not. I believe Hori is already planning their own Pro controller for launch.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, Hori works closely with Nintendo anyway for that stuff. But, yeah for Joy-Cons, though, it's going to be that does cost. I mean, the $90 for the dock is the stupidest, and not a lot of people.
That's really stupid. There is nothing in that dock.
No, there isn't. No, there's not.
Fun story. Well, I was doing the Zelda one. And I was trying to move things around. I actually looked at the system, and the dude even told me about it because all the tablets had like a metal plate on them and a big heavy steel cord tethering it to like a table or desk or whatever, so people couldn't run off with it.
Yeah.
And he was showing me how, in order to actually attach all those cables to the dock, they just had to straight up cut out a chunk of the plastic around on the top side, so they have like the cord going into it, so it looks really nice. Okay. And I looked at it and I'm like, there's nothing in there. There's very, very little. So like it is just like a cheap flimsy plastic dock just to set it up to play it on the TV. And the fact that it is $90 is very stupid.
Yeah, I don't. It's interesting. I guess maybe that goes to we're gonna make it $2.99, so
we're gonna make
everything
up for it
else
with
is
margin.
we're gonna nickel and dime you for everything else. I don't know. It just seems
It's not a good idea. We've
ludicrous.
seen what happens when people. I mean, you know, a lot of what happened to the Vita probably had quite a lot to do with the price of the memory cards for it. They tried to nickel and dime people on that, and they got burned for it. In this case, it runs on regular micro SDs, but if you're gonna nickel and dime people on the accessories, especially for what seems to be a bit of a multiplayer-focused console, you're in for a bad time there.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about this game has 8 players, and this game can do 4, this can do 6. All that requires a ton of extra money to get just another little tiny dinky controller. That's
my argument is your friends can buy their own shit. Let them bring that over. I heard this exact same argument when the Game Boy Advance connectors were coming out for the GameCube, like Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles or Legend of Zelda 4 Swords. I was like, I gotta buy 4 GBAs and 4 connectors. Like, no, if you have friends, make them buy their own shit.
Exactly. That is true enough. Yeah. If your your friends also have Joy-Cons there now, you've got 4 of them, which is probably going to be enough. You know, you got 2 each. I think it's mostly the dock and the Pro. I think you can justify $80 for a set of Joy-Cons because, there's a lot of tech in there. Sure, okay.
I don't think I would personally buy an extra set of Joy-Cons.
Probably not.
Unless I lose one.
Yeah, or one breaks down or whatever out of warranty. I don't know. But I also have to wonder how many people would also buy another dock. I think the only point of that is really, if I don't want to unplug it to move it to another television, how often am I really going to do that? Probably not that often.
I don't know if I said before, but the Joy-Con controller is surprisingly comfortable on its own. I thought it was going to be super small and too small for even my tiny girl hands, but it was actually pretty comfortable. The second player one that had the control stick in the center of it with the buttons right next to it, more comfortable than I thought it was going to be because that was the one I was most afraid of.
Some people were weird about that. It's like the stick is in the middle. What the hell?
It does look weird, but once you get your hands on it and start playing it, it was fine.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And so it actually has 2 extra triggers on the inside of it. When you have the grip on there, you have an SL and SR button in addition to the ZL and ZR on the top side. What you can do with that, I don't know, but it made it look more like a Super Nintendo controller with controllers in the button layout. One of the things I did notice. So buttons are mushy and soft and larger than you think, but all the controller stuff that I did play with was comfortable.
How would you compare it to the original 3DS's control size? Not the XL, but the original, because that actually caused me serious finger cramping.
Original 3DS? Hold on, let me grab one real quick. Just for the buttons, you mean?
Yeah, just for the buttons and the stick, just everything in general. Like I say, I had to buy the XL to be comfortable with it.
Stick was certainly better for buttons. It's hard to say anymore because it's been a few days.
Sure.
I think they're probably close to the same size, but the 3DS buttons were very clicky.
Okay.
The Joy-Cons were not. They were mushy, soft buttons.
Right. I still have concerns about that. I have fairly large hands. That might screw me over a bit. We'll see.
That's fair. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And putting the grip on does increase the size a little bit, so it might help you some.
Yeah, we'll see. All right.
Only other games that I played that are worth mentioning was maybe Sonic Mania, which was Sonic.
Yep. So it looks like it's going to be fairly entertaining. I guess
it's very easy to set up the Tails mode because you just grab the Joy-Cons and you're like, here, your Tails, cool. You're worthless.
Yeah. It seems all right. Obviously, that's multi-format as well, but yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, that pretty much sort of covers the current situation with the Switch. They just had a Fire Emblem Treehouse thing.
Apparently, it was super short. So
yeah. Basically, it announced Fire Emblem Switch working title for 2018. Fire Emblem Warriors, we knew that's fall 2017. I think the only thing they really seemed to confirm was that Chrom was a playable character. Fire Emblem Heroes is Switch and 3DS. That's all. Actually, no, that one's for smartphone.
It's a mobile game.
Yeah. That's coming out in 2 weeks.
But it's like a Brave Exvius in that it's all the Fire Emblem characters in that game, and you just are making your super cool team.
I would just like them to port it, but they're never going to do that because, of course, it's a system seller for the 3DS. So, sure.
I want to give some final thoughts on the Switch.
Yeah,
from that. Do want to say, You don't need to buy a Switch at launch. There's no reason for it. You don't even need to buy it weeks within the launch. The only reason you want to buy a Switch that early is if you really want to play Zelda on it. If you already have a Wii U, just get the Wii U version of Zelda. You're not going to miss out on much. It's going to play just as fine. You're going to have just as much fun with it. You'll still like it. I personally think the Switch isn't going to be really worth purchasing and owning until about summer sometime, right around when Splatoon 2 comes out. Because Splatoon 2, super fun. And by then, you've got Zelda, you have snipper clips, you can look into ARMS. Even Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is also an awesome online multiplayer game that will keep you busy. If for some reason that isn't enough for you, by holidays when Mario Odyssey comes out, yes, absolutely. Mario Odyssey, it's a Mario game, it's going to be phenomenal. If Mario Odyssey actually comes out this holiday, because I remember them saying that for Mario Galaxy once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they may very well delay it.
You don't need a Switch at launch. You really don't, unless you really, really want to play Zelda on it. Otherwise, just the Wii U version is fine.
Yeah. Zelda will shift the units, and as you said, I do wonder how many people will just buy the Wii U version. You know, if they're already Nintendo fans, already own the Wii U, but they're still going to buy the damn Switch on launch in the first place if they're Nintendo fans. So, I don't know, we'll see. I'm probably going to wait a bit because there's nothing on launch I actually want to play. So I'll wait, a good few months and then see if it's worthwhile there. I do, of course, want to see more about the online system, and please don't suck. I mean,
but if you get it early, get snipper clips. I'm telling you.
Good to know. Cool. All right, well, considering where we are right now, I think we're just going to run all the way through to 6 at this point. So let's move on, unless anyone desperately needs to leave for a couple of minutes. Are we good?
I'm all right.
Good to go? All right. Let's move on to the Gabe Newell
Gabe.
AMA. So, of course, Gabe Newell, the founder of Valve, big head honcho of Steam and all that, he did a AMA on Reddit, which is an Ask Me Anything. So basically a big Q&A. And there were a lot of fairly important points that were brought up, as you might imagine, as a result of this AMA. So there's a few things that I'd like to talk about and discuss. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down here and see what the first really interesting one was. Yes. The first really interesting one for me was the discussion of uncensored games on Steam. So the poster pointed out that games like Gangthon of the Golden Lightning and Lady Killer in a Bind are being sold on Steam already, and you could argue that they contain pornographic content.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of games that came out of Steam up to this point that had censorship to take a lot of that content out, and some of them have uncensored patches that are available outside of Steam. They're just not allowed to host them on Steam itself. And of course, some are just, you can't, have this degree of nudity in it and so on and so forth. So it's becoming a big issue because of the large amount of Japanese visual novels and erotic games that are ending up on Steam. So the question was, would you ever consider allowing uncensored video games containing pornographic content, or where do you draw the line?
Right.
His answer was fairly short, but it's worthy of discussion. He said, in principle, there are two problems to solve. The first is completely uncurated distribution tool for developers, and the second is a tool set for customers to allow them to find and filter content, and people are an instance of content, most obviously in multiplayer, that's a weird sentence, that is best for them. So what he seems to be saying out of that is they're not fundamentally against the idea of adult games, as it were, but in order to support more of them outside of the stuff they're carefully curating, like Lady Killer and a Bind, etc., they would have to have a more robust both publishing system and filter system in the client, so that people that didn't want to see that didn't see it, etc.
Right, because and I can imagine the backlash that would occur if just you logged in one day and the front of your there was like boobs the game and you're like, oh, my family doesn't want to see this. Like, I can understand that. So he makes a valid point. I think it would be great if they could find that sort of it does exist for people who want it, but we're not going to dump it on the front page.
Yeah, they have an adults-only section of Steam, but they do follow the Leisure Student Mary route, and you have to answer 3 questions that only old people would know.
Yes,
to actually get into it. It's like, what does VCR stand for?
No good anymore, man. We got Wikipedia. That used to be a foolproof system of stopping kids from playing it, but no, that was ingenious back in the day. That and Code Wheels, incredible.
Code Wheels.
But what it does do is it also gives them the ability to say, well, this kid went online and looked up those answers, and he went in there. So clearly his intention was to get into this system. So parents, if you're angry, be angry at him, not us.
Yeah, you need plausible deniability. I mean, there'll obviously be some kind of age gate, because everything like that needs a age gate in certain countries. How strong the age gate is will be interesting, because of course 95% of people were apparently born on January 1st on Steam because of the stupid little age gate things that come up. I think an adults-only section is a good idea. I mean, because as this guy's pointed out, there's already games that have crossed that line. And also, a point that a lot of people don't usually bring up, because who the fuck buys these on Steam? Steam sells movies now. And a lot of those cross that line in many ways when it comes to the content. So it would be hypocritical, certainly, and inconsistent to allow movies that have content like that and not allow games. And more to the point, it's ridiculous that there are so many restrictions in that sense in the first place. You know, it's an outdated idea. It's something that retail stores basically capitulated to, but outside of a physical retail store, you don't need to capitulate to that. Right. If you're a digital store, there's no need. And it would be good, I think, for Steam to implement that system. But they are correct in the sense that they don't have the facilities for it yet, which is a problem with a lot of stuff on Steam. I mean, he talks about content curation. Content curation on Steam is already a huge problem. The curator system sucks. So I tell you that as the person that's got the biggest curator on there. It's shit.
I feel like they need to worry about all the shit games before they need to worry about the titty games.
Which is a great segue to the question about shit games.
Yeah, right.
Because there was that. I'm just scrolling down to find it. There we go. His answer to this was a little evasive, let's say. So this question came in, and it mentioned the statistic that nearly 40% of all Steam games were released in 2016, which is true. And he said that a lot of people believe that the platform needs more strict policing when it comes to quality, and that a fair few games released are never up to the quality one expects from PC gaming's biggest storefront. There's a flood of games, which makes finding better games harder, and it opens people up to scams and really, really shitty software that drags the whole quality of the store down. He asks, what is Valve's take on this? Does it feel like the current state of affairs is good? Even if the flood of games is not stemmed, will the curator and tag system become more robust? His answer is, there's not really a singular definition of quality, and what we've seen is that many different games appeal to different people, so we're trying to support the variety of games that people are interested in playing. We know we still have more work to do on filtering those games so the right games show up for the right customers. It's the first bit of this that I've got a bit of a problem with, because it's playing the subjectivity card when we're not talking about, oh, this is just a game I don't like. We're talking about a game that doesn't even fucking run, or that uses stolen assets, or that's a blatant, just a game that was built from pre-built shit on the Unity store that was thrown. I mean, there's like 20, 30 different versions of the same zombie shooter game that's all pre-built Unity shit. These asset flip games. There's games that are designed solely to get idiots to buy them for $1 to get the trading cards. And the problem I think I have is that Valve has a vested interest in allowing those to continue because they make money off of that.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, they have no interest in being like, sorry, we're going to get rid of those because it's still money.
Mm-hmm. It's real rare for them to do anything about that. There were, yesterday, they actually removed a game from Steam, which is rare, but they did it. Art of Stealth, which incidentally, a day before that, had decided to threaten Jim Sterling. Never a good idea. Don't do that, idiots. And they got removed for faking reviews, basically. They used multiple accounts to post positive reviews of the game on the platform. They lost their storefront as a result of that. I'm glad to see they're starting to curate that. But, I mean, they are... Gabe is right in saying that they don't have all the systems in place to properly filter. I mean, you're right about that, but will you ever have all of them in place to filter out all of that shit? I mean, I think it sort of ignores the fact that Steam is used as a discovery platform by a lot of people, and that window shopping is certainly a thing. People do walk into a store not knowing what they want to buy. If a store's full of crap, I mean, it reduces the confidence in the store. Stores curate. That's the fucking reality of it. You know, if they sell something that sets itself on fire, they'll take it off the shelves. They won't put a really, really shitty product on their shelves, at least not for long, but Valve will. They're totally fine with that. I'm not fine with that. I think that's nonsense. So, I don't know. I'm not so keen on that idea because I think technically, on a technical level, there is a more singular definition of quality. We're not talking preferences here. If something runs at fucking 3 frames per second and crashes every 5 minutes, that's objectively bad.
Right.
There's no opinion involved there. I don't know. I'm a little worried about that answer because, again, bit evasive, bit like, we got no responsibility for this, bro.
But it's also a like really good corporate answer, in that if he had said, "Yeah, we're definitely going to look at this and we're going to get rid of some games," then people would have been like, "What games? Where's your definition? Where's the line you draw from ruining?" And that would have caused a whole other headache for him. So I don't know. It's a non-answer, but I think it's like a very corporate non-answer that gets them out of the liability of having to give a real one. Like, it would cause even more drama.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I say, like, if the curation system was better, then maybe it wouldn't be such a problem. But the curation system isn't better. It's not very good. And as we recently saw with like shit like Art of Stealth, just fake a few reviews and you can get a lot more eyeballs on your product and push it up the charts, push it up the rankings, get more visibility. If they don't properly police that, I mean, this is one of the first times I've ever seen them remove something for fake reviews. And that problem is very widespread. Unless they decide to police that more, I'm not so keen on that. I don't like this whole idea of we're just a dumping ground. There's so few stores that ever view that as acceptable. Let's see what else we got. There was a question about making, what's the status on Half-Life 3? Obviously, that they're being super evasive about that.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm looking to see that there was something about the idea that they want to develop. Here we go. Yes. This is a really interesting post. So someone asked, are you planning on continuing Left 4 Dead? But the answer was very interesting. Products are usually the result of an intersection of technology that we think has traction, a group of people who want to work on that, and one of the game properties that we feel like is a natural playground for that set of technology and design challenges. That, to me, says we want to use first-party developed games as a means to push a particular envelope of either a market or a advancement in technology that we've made. And they've got to that point. It almost reminds me of id Software's approach. A lot of id Software games are like, we're building a game so that we can demonstrate our new engine and use it to the best of our ability. It was the Epic used to do that quite a lot too with their games. In this case, it seems like Valve are like, well, if we come up with some new technology, new engine, or new piece of hardware, or new business model idea, we'll create a game to push that. Which they already did. I mean, you look at what CSGO and Dota did with, in the case of Dota, their free-to-play model, you could argue, was revolutionary. Nobody else was doing that. But they also used it to push their marketplace, which is a feature of their platform. And CSGO also pushed that as well. It wasn't a free-to-play game, but, And TF2, before that, transitioned to free-to-play and went for a different business model too. So you can argue that those were games pushed by technological innovations on their end.
I would love to see more Left 4 Dead that is based more around a technological evolution rather than, say, different price points or free-to-play or Steam store integration or whatever. Because even when Left 4 Dead came out, that was a big deal because that was like asynchronous multiplayer and this weird co-op survival thing.
Yeah,
that
with
is
the whole
more or less the
director.
norm now.
Yeah. But Left 4 Dead's still one of the best at it. I mean,
absolutely.
The director system, especially in Left 4 Dead 2, it was one of the problems I had with the new Space Hulk game. That you play that and then you play Left 4 Dead, you feel like Space Hulk's levels are always play out the same because they're just set spawns. There's no director that's varying the challenge for you as you go along, which feels like a much more natural opposition and more replayable. It's why people are still playing Left 4 Dead 2 to this day. It's almost infinitely replayable on that level. You're totally right, though. I hope that if they do the Left 4 Dead 3, it's not just a tool to sell more shit.
Yeah, and that's probably why there hasn't been just a straight-up Left 4 Dead 3 in so long, because they're trying to find something more to do with it rather than just different characters, new levels, new weapons. They want some kind of AI improvement or making it so each playthrough is different. I would love to see it so that there's actually multiple pathways that you don't know what way you're gonna go every time. Like almost kind of benchmarky. Like you start up at 1.1. By the time you get to like the second checkpoint, you end up going through 0.4.
Branching paths. Yeah.
Yeah. And just like randomize it that way. Maybe they can
remixing parts of levels I think would be great.
Right. So it's like pseudo procedurally generated, but not really.
Yeah, handcrafted procedural. Like we're taking these bits fit together, but we pre-designed them to not suck.
Yeah, because they've already got like the kind of randomized enemy placement, but if they could do something like that, but for the levels itself, I think that's where you need to go with Left 4 Dead.
Yeah,
that's what I would do at least. I don't know. They're smarter than I am.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the right way to go with it, and it does speak to their sort of philosophy, I guess. Because if you do take their previous games in context, then you can understand. Oh, actually, this stuff kind of did make a decent amount of sense because it was pushing something technologically. I mean, they have the Source 2 engine, and I would just wonder what they're going to do with that.
Right.
You know, outside of, I mean, Source 2 is running Dota now, right? But outside of that, what's going to happen with it? I don't know. It's weird because obviously they've got their fingers in so many different weird pies right now, especially with the Vive in play. One has to wonder if they'd try anything with that. Not that that's a way to make money right now. VR games are not selling very well anywhere. So there was that. Was there anything else in here that any of you spotted that was a big deal?
I mean, aside from the fact that he is like, yeah, we're making more, we will either have a Half-Life or a Portal game in the future.
Yeah.
And he's confirmed that, yeah, that's going to happen. I mean, I don't know. A lot of it is people asking things like, can I come visit your offices? And
what do you think, my dad?
Yeah. Like, do people recognize you? Stuff like that.
Like, this is a piece of fan art that I made. It's like, yeah, okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's good use of your time. Yeah.
I will say a lot of his answers and a few of the questions relate to customer support. And even his biggest regret is customer support, where he's like, if I could go back and change things and start from the beginning, customer support would be the thing that I fixed the most. And I guess it's a cool thought.
He recognizes that.
Yeah.
It doesn't fix anything.
Yeah, it doesn't change a damn thing. But, you know, at least they recognize that it's shit.
Yeah, so. I mean, well, at least we already knew that. I don't think they've ever really claimed otherwise, but it's very much like the way that the company is structured doesn't really lend itself well to that. They've got this flat structure where people work on the things they want to work on, and no one wants to work in customer support. Simple as that. So they design automated systems around that. You know, the fact that you can get a pretty much automatic refund before 2 hours are done dodges a decent amount of trouble with that, but not all of it by any stretch. Yeah, they need more than that to be effective. Yeah, I think those three were like the interesting answers. A lot of the others were just like, will you send me an email? Sure. Will you do an interview? Yeah. Yeah.
I will say I do like that he said we're not going to do Half-Life 3 unless we can do something interesting with it and not just put out a sequel for the sake of having a sequel.
Although, boy, would I like one.
I would love one too. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Would love it. But I'm glad it's like, what if we really want to actually elevate the game instead of just putting more out there?
It's a very Valve answer. I don't necessarily think that that's necessary, and I don't know if it necessarily even fits in with their philosophy. Unless you, obviously, I think Portal 2. Some people would argue is a better game than the original Portal. It's certainly longer, but some people would argue that the first game was better than the second. Left 4 Dead 2, I think, is pretty much universally accepted as being better than the first one, but I don't think it was a seismic advancement. And I don't think that Half-Life 3 would have to be a seismic advancement either. I mean, hell, they didn't even finish the episodes, for fuck's sake.
That's what I'm saying. It just have to be a good game.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to, blow my mind in any particular way. I just would love a continuation of that story/world.
Yeah,
that's
they
all.
didn't fucking finish it.
My only thought is they would only put it out there if they really needed the money, but they don't.
Well, they don't. No, of course not. They're making so much money, God knows what. And I guess you can make the expectation argument, but someone's going to be disappointed in Half-Life 3 regardless. It could be the second coming of Christ, and people would still say that they didn't like it.
Overrated.
Yeah. You're gonna run into that. And actually, that's kind of a ditch that you dug for yourself. You know, you've made it you've made it mythical. You brought it up to mythical status. That you're gonna put yourself in a Duke Nukem Forever situation if you're not careful. I personally don't agree with that. I think you can argue, yes, that's a quality control thing. It's like, don't make it unless absolutely necessary. But I think they've already made games that weren't absolutely necessary. I don't think Portal 2 was a necessary game. I don't think Left 4 Dead 2 was either. They're both good, but they weren't necessary. And I think that they could easily do a Left 4 Dead 3 or a Half-Life 3 that wasn't a massive technological leap in any way.
But I mean, compared to the last ones, it would be anyway.
Yeah.
Because the time that's passed.
Yeah, they have a new engine. Isn't that enough? Just make a good Half-Life game on it. Surely, right? Right? Whatever. They'll do what they want to do, and there's nothing we can fucking do about it.
Yeah. I feel it's the same way when you see Nintendo events and everyone's like, "Where's Metroid? Metroid? What happened to Metroid? Dude, bro, we're at the anniversary. Where's Metroid?
Where's F-Zero?"
I feel like it's one of those moments where it's like, I wonder if Nintendo has the exact same thought of like, if we goof on another Metroid game, like that's it, y'all. So let's just not. Like,
Didn't stop them from goofing on Star Fox. I mean, you could argue they goofed with Federation Force on Metroid.
Yeah. Federation Force is fun though.
Yeah, it is. It's better. It's certainly a fuck ton better than Star Fox. But,
yeah.
So I don't think that's a factor at all. I think that they're just sort of forgetting it, just like throwing it to the side for whatever reason. Yeah. Oh. Well, that's that. Yeah, so that was his AMA. As I say, there was a couple of interesting answers that'll no doubt spark discussion. The rest of it was kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Definitely not one of the better ones I've seen, but hey. News-wise, otherwise, there's a little thing that's worth us talking about, just because we're all on the YouTube platforms. This is relevant to us. It was either yesterday or today. A website published an email that was sent to them by a indie developer that developed a game called Dead Effect, and also Dead Effect 2. I think they're called Blackfly?
Yes, I have actually played Dead Effect 2 a while ago. It's not a bad game. Here's the thing. It's not like great, but it's not a bad game.
It's very run-of-the-mill.
Yeah. It's like Dead Space inspired, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a zombie first-person shooter, really, in space. It's not bad, but again, this stuff was originally like aimed for mobile. So
it was originally a mobile game. Yeah.
Yeah, and what they did was someone had asked for a review code from a website called Cog Connected, and the developer in the email said, which was not a good idea at all. They said, let me just mention one thing, though. This is an indie game, which unfortunately is very often compared with big-budget games, and that's quite a problem. It very much damages its reputation in final ratings. Please take into consideration the fact that this game was created by a small team who just tried to develop a good shooter game, and that's about it. Unfortunately, a number of journalists have other, much bigger expectations from it. That's very damaging for us eventually. That's not too bad, although a bit, you're trying to play the sympathy card here. Here's the bit that got people riled. Also working on several other games that are definitely interesting. If your review or preview of Dead Effect is very negative, you won't receive any keys from us in the future.
I almost feel bad for them because I know exactly where they're coming from mentally, in that because their game is so heavily inspired by the Dead Space, Mass Effect, like what they're doing.
It's totally unoriginal.
You can't help but compare it. So most big news organizations will, or even reviewers, even while playing it, just describing it to you, it's like Dead Space, right? So like you're immediately putting it next to something that is a AAA title because the game's so similar to it.
On the flip side,
and so I feel bad for them in that aspect. Like that sucks that people are reviewing it like, well, it's kind of like this, but a shittier version of it. But that's what it is. Like, how else do you describe
that's the
it?
reality.
It's not the easiest way to describe something to someone who has no idea what you're talking about.
Compare it to something else. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's a very common practice in reviewing or any kind of like consumer-grade critique. You use the art of comparison to, because it's a very quick way of setting someone's expectations. And yeah, you can argue, all right, well, you shouldn't compare Dead Effect 2 to Mass Effect. Well, one, don't call it effect. But don't compare to Mass Effect 3 because that was a big budget title by a very experienced studio. Yeah, but your game's also like $3 or whatever, like not 60. Honestly, it doesn't matter because we've seen incredible games come from tiny studios. You know, Journey had, 3 or 4 people working on it. There's single dev games. Fucking goddamn, what the hell's that? Dust Elysium Tale was one dude. You know? And he made
one dude.
Yeah. That's not an excuse. I'm sorry, like the price tag is generally what kind of lets you get away with not being so good a game. It's like, oh, you're an indie game, you're probably like $15, $20. The expectation of the consumer is automatically lower because of that. And they don't expect a AAA quality from it. But I mean, as someone that looks at both AAA and indie games, I am not, at least I try not to be sympathetic towards indie devs. I looked at what the vision of the game was and whether or not they accomplished it. It doesn't matter if it looks worse than a AAA game. What were you trying to do? Did you do it well?
Right.
That's the question. So saying this is just, to me, it's playing the sympathy card. It's not a good idea. And I understand that this was a mistake that they made, and they actually have said, shitstorm started, lesson learned. The point of the message was just, see us what we are, a small indie studio. Okay, I understand that, but don't try and influence
a game
people
as
way.
a game and whether it's fun or not.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't want to take into account really who developed it all that much. I want to take into account what you did and what you achieved, or what you failed to achieve.
There's no participation awards.
No, there really aren't, because we make our videos for consumers to make decisions based on. We can't give out participation trophies in that respect. If it was more academic, then sure.
This game's not very good, but guys, they tried real hard.
Yeah, try.
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you say? Yeah, what would you say in a review in regards to that? Like, well, there's only like 8 people on the team, so give them credit for what they accomplished. Like, that's not what it's about. That's not what a review is.
A consumer doesn't care how many people are on your team. It could be 2 or 200. It doesn't matter to them. What they care about is whether or not the product is worth the money they paid for it.
Absolutely.
And that expectation will vary based on price tag, which is why most indie games are cheaper than AAAs, which is why they get away with more. And that's fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't go for the sympathy vote there. I think they kind of made a mistake here. I think they should probably be forgiven for it. They shouldn't be pinned up and crucified for, especially considering English is their second language. They're not an English studio, so I don't think they should be crucified for it. But I think this is a nice little what not to do story, just to remind indie devs this is not the way you do PR. People are particularly sensitive to the notion of developers trying to bias their review.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't.
Yeah, I think it just came as a outlet wants a code. Okay, I guess we'll give you a code, but we emotionally have dealt with people in the past that we've given codes to talk shit about our game, so we're a little worried. So we're gonna give it like I can get the mentality of it all. It's just don't do it. Sometimes just don't do it. Like one of the things you had to learn very quickly in the I'm on YouTube and the Twitter game is sometimes you want to tweet something and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna delete that and not say a thing.
Not worth it.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to just learn to just walk, like get it out emotionally, but walk away. Don't say a damn thing and just be like, you know what? I'm cool. I'm gonna go find something else to do right now.
Yeah,
it's tough.
What's interesting is they put out another statement, the prepared statement. They said, we create B-class horror first-person shooters on purpose. We love it. However, we've experienced reviews that compared us to big AAAs like Left 4 Dead and Mass Effect and gave us extremely low ratings. And for one thing, maybe don't call your game Dead Effect 2 if you don't want to compare to Dead Space and Left 4 Dead and Mass Effect. Maybe don't do that. Sadly, there are reviewers, trolls, who are writing biased reviews. Look, you might think these reviews are unfair, but every review is biased. There's no such thing as an unbiased review ever. That doesn't exist. Everybody comes in with their own set of biases. It's, I don't think that there's anyone out there, including the people on this show, who could, with just one piece of opinion, torpedo your entire product. Nope. I don't think they have that power. Unless your game is legendarily bad, and it's, again, like Guys of the fucking Wolf. Like, Guys the Wolf and Gary's Incident are these are the two studios that literally tried to sue me for saying bad things about them. DMCA'd my videos and stuff like that. That ended up really poor for them. I think they're both out of business now. And obviously, we had the recent thing with Digital Homicide and the devs of Art of Stealth. You need to understand that a bad review is probably not the reason why your whole product failed. It probably goes a lot deeper than that, and maybe just not enough people were interested in your product in the first place because it was too generic, it wasn't marketed well, it didn't stand out. And those poor reviews aren't the reason why it failed. And even if they were, you need to look at them and say, well, what can I do better next time?
Yeah. If anything, it's a lesson to be learned going ahead, going forward.
Totally. It sucks when somebody writes a review that is inaccurate and, slanders, well, I guess libels a game on that basis. And it definitely sucks if they go after the developer directly and don't say things that are true. But simultaneously, a developer's going to have a very biased perspective in and of himself as to what is true and what isn't. They live in their own little bubble. They believe their game is better than everybody outside the bubble believes. And it's pretty hard to hear that. And, okay, we create B-class horror first-person shooters on purpose.
Not a strong thing to say.
No.
We don't try to be great on purpose.
Yeah. It's a very odd term.
Yeah, like they would have been better off just saying, yeah, we goofed, sorry, and not even trying to explain anything. Because the explanation, in my mind, makes it worse. Like, much worse. Like, we actually set out to make it that way, and you guys just don't understand where we're coming from. Like, no, we get it. You don't get it. Stop talking.
It's a very my artistic vision kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sure, like, you can make some comparisons, like fucking Asylum Films deliberately makes bad fucking movies, and occasionally they do okay, like Sharknado, and the 10 sequels that it now has as a result of that. The kind of so bad it's good sort of idea. That's a lot harder to do with video games, by the way. That's a lot harder to do because you have to actually play them. So if they don't play well, it's really hard to enjoy them. In this case, it's like, okay, we made something that was not really trying to push the boat out in any way. It's a budget game. I mean, that's kind of what they should have said. It's decent at what it does. It's not going to set the world on fire.
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's a market for those games.
Mm-hmm.
But they're kind of crossing the line into saying, well, it's bad on purpose. And I don't think Dead Effect is bad per se, but it definitely doesn't excel in anything.
No, I mean, yeah, if anything, I come at it from a biased standpoint of like, for what it was, I actually kind of enjoyed it because I like the Dead Space genre and I like what they were trying to go for. Being a badass in space, murdering zombies and shit is my jam. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But it's not a great game. Like, at the end of the day, it's still not a good game. It's like, okay.
It was originally designed for mobile, the original Dead Effect anyway. And the thing's like, when you do that, like, there's a reason why Dead Effect's review, I'll just use scores for the sake of this, even though I hate it. But the thing is, they will probably look at the scores as well. There's a reason why the iOS version of Dead Effect 2 has far higher ratings than the PC version, because those two platforms have different expectations.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of really good games of that genre on PC. iOS doesn't. Which is why it got a fucking 90 from Apple and apps on iOS, and on PC, the highest review was like a 7. You have to understand that. They're different markets. They have different expectations.
Yeah.
It's not because you were compared unfavorably. Well, and maybe it is because you were compared unfavorably to that, but that's the thing. The problem is, you're still competing with those things. There's still games on PC that people like. You're still competing with them. It doesn't matter that you don't have as much money as they do. Tough shit. I'm sorry. If you want to compete with them, try and innovate then. Because there's plenty of indie devs with way less budget than you that have outsold AAA games simply through doing something different. Or doing one thing really well.
And let's not pretend we live in a world where they didn't immediately name it Dead Effect because they were trying to associate it with the other two. Let's
on
not
mobile, they were
just
absolutely.
Like, we stumbled on that name.
Absolutely on mobile. You've seen so many. I mean, was it Gameloft make a ton of clones of existing stuff. You know, they've got clones of Grand Theft Auto, clones of Gears, Shadowgun, I believe was the name of their Gears clone. Modern Combat 5, they have like 5 versions of that game, which is just their COD clone that they release every year. And they're fine for what they are, but they're still mobile games. They're still vastly inferior to the stuff that they're trying to ape. So, of course you're going to get comparisons. You deliberately tried to ape those things. Like, unless you're claiming that you weren't inspired by those other games, and which I call bullshit.
I mean, that's why when I first saw it, I was like, oh, I'll play this game because it looks like the other games I played that I loved. Like, you can't say that's what
how most mobile games market themselves in the first place. It's like,
absolutely.
another game, you know.
It is exactly what they do on mobile. So when you port something to that to PC, of course you're going to run into problems. You're going to run into negative perception. If you don't want that, then make a game that's different from the shit you're trying to ape, you know? And don't call it defect. Because, of course you're going to get negative comparisons. Ultimately, your game's still $3.50 and is probably... I wonder if this went on sale today in response to this, because it used to be a $12 game. It's now $3. It's probably okay for what it is for its price tag.
It's worth $3.50. I will say that.
Yeah,
it's
sure.
about $3.50 worth of entertainment. I'll give it that for sure.
Sure. That's fine.
But yeah, I don't...
It's like, we make mediocre games, then complain that they're reviewed mediocre. Wait, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You're not getting 0s, you're getting 5s, because you made a run-of-the-mill, middle-of-the-road game. That's fair.
Yeah.
If that's your goal, you should be thankful you're getting something that high.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think it was like a 60 or 55-ish Metacritic for the PC version of Dead Effect 2. For something like that, that's not bad.
That's not awful.
No.
It's not.
It's not. No. How could you possibly expect more than that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So... I say, I do feel a degree of sympathy, as Jesse said, for them, and they shouldn't be punished for this, especially considering they've walked it back, but just don't. I understand, look, it's your baby. We all kind of get that way about our content from time to time. We're all protective of it.
Oh, yeah.
But if you come out and say that, you are just opening yourself to even more trolling. If you genuinely believe that these reviews are trolls, what do you think is going to happen when you say something like this? You've just made it out like you're sensitive to this stuff. That means you've put a big target on your back now. Don't do that. It's not wise.
Just take your lumps and then move on. Just be like, all right,
game.
well, off to Dead Effect 3, and let's try to make that better.
Yeah, make your next one. You're not wrong.
Dead Effect 3, Mass Space.
Oh, dear. Well,
Isaac Shepard's back.
By the way, the original Dead Effect shifted almost 200,000 copies on Steam. Fuck you for complaining about that.
Wow.
That's a good number.
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Yeah. I don't know if they did a giveaway or whatever, but no, they've got 200,000 owners for that game on Steam. So I don't think they're in a position
not bad at
to
all.
complain.
Compared to most Steam games, that's phenomenal. So you guys should count your blessings on this one.
Indeed. All right, that pretty much wraps the show up. Honestly, I'm looking. I'll just check through the releases to see if there's anything of real value. I don't feel like doing 30 minutes of crap today. The stuff that jumps out to me, Hive Jump is out today, which is a pretty cool-looking 4-player co-op side-scroller shooter with a few interesting, unique mechanics and this overall online campaign map where you're battling against the aliens with everybody else, which I thought was pretty neat. I might look into that one. That's out on Steam today. There is the release of Sanctus Reach, which is the new 40k strategy game in a few days. I have played the demo of that. It's not bad. I need to see more of it to see whether or not it's, like, really worthy of any other attention. Outside of that, Urban Empire is coming out on the 20th, which is a pretty cool-looking city builder. So you might want to have a look at that as well. Also, big release next week, I think. Yeah, on Tuesday is, of course, Resident Evil 7.
Yo!
I'm hyped for that one. Legit.
Yeah. Resident Evil 7.
I wasn't at first, but now I am.
Yeah, intrigued to see what's going to go on with that one. So those are your big releases, I think, coming your way. A lot of the
Dragon Quest 8 on 3DS is also out on Friday.
Cool.
If you missed on the PS2 one,
such a good game.
It's super good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that is about it in terms of the stuff that looks interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, pretty much. Cool. All right, let's wrap the show then. Thank you very much for watching, and a big thanks, of course, to our sponsor today, squarespace.com/cooptional. Head over there for 10% off your first order. Go design yourself a website. I'm sure you can find a use for it one way or the other. But I'd love to know, Mr. ProJared, what's coming up on your channels over the next couple of weeks?
Well, the big ones right now is all the Switch stuff I've got on both my channels. Over on my main channel, you can see my overall thoughts on the Nintendo Switch, which you already heard a lot of it on here. Also, be sure to watch my full interview with Reggie Fils-Aimé, President of Nintendo of America. Aside from that, coming up would be super secret ProJared videos. A certain cartoon show is one I'm covering that's coming up. And then over on the gameplay channel, I want to play through Resident Evil 7. I'll make that a series. I think it'll be fun.
Very cool. Oh, quick announcement, by the way, because I just got this email in from Amazon. Apparently, the release date of Yakuza 0 on PS4 has changed to January the 24th. So it's actually out Tuesday.
Wow. Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
Might want to pay attention to that one. The Yakuza series is pretty great. And
yeah.
I think this is the first big effort they've had in a while to push it in the West. So you might want to keep an eye on that one. Runs at 62, which is nice. Rare to find one of those on PlayStation 4 these days.
Yeah.
Yep. Jesse, what's coming on your channel this week? What's going on?
Yo, Scary Game Squad, Resident Evil 7. Get ready for your butt for that. That'll be fun. And I'm out of the office while they make walls soundproof times a million. So I don't know. We'll stream like Shantae or some crap and have fun. And I'll just dick around and be stupid at home. That's what I'm doing.
Cool. I'm straight after the show diving right back into Long War 2 to try and desperately get something out for tomorrow, but I will be streaming Long War 2 tomorrow. That is the plan. Fully expect massive failure. That is not an easy game at all. But yeah, I've been playing. I've got 12, 13 hours, I think, on the press version of that mod now. It's a big deal, so I'll be doing content on that tomorrow. I do have my tournament coming up at the end of this month. We just re-announced the renewal of Shoutcraft Kings for 2017. We've increased the prize pool thanks to a new co-sponsor. We have Ting, who is a mobile phone provider in the United States, who are going to be co-sponsoring the event. So cool. $7,500 a month in prize money for StarCraft players. The first event will be on the 28th, starting at 8 a.m. Yep, it's early, Eastern. So feel free to come along and watch that. If you miss it, the VODs will be available on youtube.com/TotalBiscuit. Outside of that, probably a Halcyon 6 video coming at some point in the not-too-distant future. Still need to play Rise and Shine. Apparently that's short as hell. You can be beaten in about 2.5 hours, so it'll probably take me more like 10 because I'm terrible, but we'll give it a shot. And eventually, I'll probably play Hitman, eventually, when I get around to it. Probably looking at Urban Empire as well. I do have a code for that too. Pit People as well. We need to play a little bit of Pit People. Jesse, we should probably play some Pit People. It has co-op.
Done. Yeah, I was just looking at that on Steam.
Let's fucking do it this week. Let's actually do a co-op video. We haven't done one in ages.
Dude, I'm in. Sign me up.
Looking at my schedule, let's do it. What you looking at on Friday?
A whole bunch of nothing. You call me, I am
Friday.
in.
Pit People. Dude. Let's fucking do it. 2-player Pit People. Sounds great. We'll either do it on stream or for a YouTube video, or probably both, because we really like money. So let's do that. Fantastic. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the Corruptional Podcast. Big thanks to our guest today, Mr. ProJared, a font of knowledge for the Nintendo Switch. Hopefully you leave this very informed. Yeah, do go watch the interviews. Go watch all the content over on his channel. It's been below his face for the last 3 hours. You can't miss it. Go do it. We're done. Thank you for watching. Big thanks to our sponsor, Squarespace, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.